BBC Radio London Sport on digital radio and TV, and this afternoon's live match commentary. Over on 94.9 FM and BBC Sounds, scheduled programmes continue.
BBC Radio London,
the home of London football.
Afternoon, welcome to a soggy Craven Cottage for the We're the Two Teams That Just Beat Chelsea derby.
BBC Radio London,
the home of London football.
Yes, hello there, good afternoon. Nick Godwin, Steve Brown and myself, Phil Parry, here at Craven Cottage on the banks of the Thames. It's actually surprisingly mild despite the fact that we had frozen rain and snow overnight. Footballing fun continues to blow away the post-festive season blues, and this afternoon could be a cracker. Fulham looking to reclaim 8th spot in the Premier League with another win, this time over Ipswich. The boss knows it's going to be tough.
In certain areas of the pitch that we can punish you anytime, and the players with the quality, they are really aggressive on and off the ball. They are a difficult team to play.
In League 2, we're with Bromley this afternoon as well as they look to maintain their magnificent form.
Might be the chance for Whiteley here to drill the ball across goal, and there is the third goal. Kamal Grant's the player who's able to slash home from inside the 6-yard box, and that's an excellent free kick routine. You feel that Bromley could be on for 3 points. Gillingham 0, Bromley 3.
There's time to look back to a busy day yesterday with the good, the bad and the blooming angry, mate.
You can check, you can talk about whatever you want. You don't want to have an opinion, you want my opinion. My opinion is that if all things were even and balanced today, we would have won that game.
All that plus the whole of Fulham against Ipswich Town, live right here.
BBC Radio London,
the home of London football.
Good afternoon, welcome to Craven Cottage, which is filling up very nicely. It's grey, it's murky, we've got so used to that. We did see the sunshine, I think, for a couple of days recently. I think, well, allegedly that's what it was. But we're back to what is normal. You may have, if you're awake enough, late enough last night here in our fine city, have looked out of your window and seen a Christmas card scene. Week and a half late, but doesn't matter. That snow has now dissipated and it's game on. Not so, though, in Lancashire, on the west coast of Lancashire. Fleetwood against AFC Wimbledon called off earlier today after the pitch not being in the right condition and concerns about the surrounding areas. Liverpool Man United does go ahead. Anfield, though, looked itself like an Arctic scene earlier today, but they've sorted that out, as it does at Gresty Road. Crewe against Bromley, who can push themselves to within 2 points of the playoff places in League 2 if their good form continues. More of that and on. But here at Craven Cottage, full Premier League commentary to come. Fulham taking on Ipswich Town. Fulham and Ipswich both warming up out in front of us. The warm-up kits these days certainly are always very snazzy, Steve. Got an eye on one of those pink and sort of mauvey purple sort of numbers, maybe sort of I don't know where you'd camouflage yourself, possibly in a nightclub with a top like that. But the players warming up are preparing for kick-off here in 25 or so minutes time. Nick Godwin is our commentator. Nick, you've got the team news for us.
And there is just one change for Fulham from that draw against Bournemouth last time out, and it's a return into central midfield for Tom Kearney. He replaces Andreas Pereira, who has dropped to the bench. It's Kearney's first start since the Southampton game, only his second Premier League start of the season. Two changes for Ipswich. Wes Burns drops to the bench. Amari Hutchinson is omitted from the squad altogether. Now, the Ipswich manager has confirmed on television that he has a groin injury. He's not been dropped because he's being sold, or certainly that's not the excuse that's been given. In comes Ben Johnson at right back and Sammy Smodic further forward. So the lineups look like this. Bernd Leno in goal for Fulham. A back three of Joachim Andersen, Issa Diop and Calvin Bassey, with Timothy Castagnier and Anthony Robinson the two wing backs, Sasa Lukic and Tom Kearney in midfield, and Alex Iwobi and Harry Wilson supporting Raul Jimenez up front. Ipswich have Christian Walton in goal, he keeps his place. A back three of Luke Wolf and Dindara O'Shea and Jacob Greaves, with Ben Johnson and Leif Davies the wing backs, Sami Morsi and Jens Kajust the Swedish midfielder on loan from Napoli in the middle, and Sammy Smodic and Nathan Broadhead, who's played his way into the Ipswich starting 11 in recent weeks, with Liam Delap as the main striker. So those are two lineups, Phil.
Nick, thank you very much. Nick and Steve, our commentary team here this afternoon at Craven Cottage. Just firstly, actually, you mentioned this time of year, into transfer window, players suddenly not in starting lineups, players on the bench. Andreas Pereira, for example, for Fulham, who's been linked with a move to Palmeiras. They've rejected a bid of Fulham from that point of view. It becomes a little destabilising. Also becomes a real fuel for rumour mills. If a player's ill and misses out, suddenly it's like, oh, he's being sold.
Well, Murray Hutchinson scored the clinching goal against Chelsea last time out and has kind of shown that he is one of the rising young stars in Premier League football. Him and Liam Delap in particular have caught the eye for Ipswich from an offensive point of view. They've not had an enormous number of chances because Ipswich don't create that much, but when they have done, they have sparkled, and therefore they are going to attract interest. And I suppose it's a testament to the achievement of the people running Ipswich Town that they have made 2 acquisitions in the summer. Hutchinson was on loan from Chelsea last season, but Delap's arrival from Manchester City and Hutchinson's arrival from Chelsea for relatively big money, and the chances are that they could and perhaps will be sold for even bigger money, regardless of whether Ipswich stay up or go down, because they have been proven to be able to handle themselves in the Premier League. Liam Delap in particular has proven himself to be one of the best English strikers so far in the top flight this season. But as soon as these players go missing from starting 11s or from squads in January, people start to ask questions. But as I said, trying to dampen down that expectation. Kieran McKenna has gone on television today to say it's a groin strain, but then I suppose if they were going to sell him, maybe he would say that.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility, Steve, isn't it? Really? I mean, we can't not, I suppose, have a transfer window because teams will, for whatever reason, may be deficient in players through injury, for various other reasons as well, that they may need to recruit at this stage of the season. But it is a destabilising time where head coaches probably look at it and go, look, yeah, I'd love to add and destabilise another club. What I don't want is my group being affected by speculation.
Yeah, and I've been in the middle of a dressing room in a window where one of the players has changed character.
Right.
Just purely based on what the club had told him when he signed his new contract, and then how they treated him during that January transfer window. He sort of downed tools without actually downing tools, and it was very much out of character for that particular player, and did force the move. So you've got that to contend with as a manager as well. I'm not saying for one moment that's what's going on with Ipswich Town, but like I said, from my own experiences, I've watched a very tight knit unit become slightly distanced from 1 or 2 players because they were forcing a move out to better clubs, and they were better clubs, and they were good moves for the individuals, but it caused a little bit of unrest in the dressing room.
We'll hear from Marco Silva in a little while before kick-off, but Fulham have progressed again this year, seemingly. Opportunity to go back 8th in the table. If they do, and maybe it's outside the club, people talk about a push for finishing in European qualification ranks, whether that's the Europa Conference League or the Europa League. Maybe that's what's going on around the club rather than internally within the club. However, to fulfil that and stay in the hunt, with all due respect to the visitors, this is the sort of home game that you need to be taking maximum points from.
Yeah, and actually, in recent weeks, it's the Wolves and the Southamptons that Fulham have struggled with. I think they're very good and relatively good at soaking up a little bit of pressure and counter-attacking, but when they have to go on the front foot and win games against the Wolves and against the Southamptons, they've struggled a little bit. They did unpick Brentford in the end, but for a large period of that game they were knocking away without actually scoring, and Harry Wilson came in and scored those 2 late goals to get them the 3 points. But it's these ones, you're right, Phil, these are the ones you have to win if you're going to maintain that European push. It also gives them a lovely little cushion, doesn't it, down to Brighton in 10th. They jump above Villa on goal difference, and it just gives them that 4-point cushion. It takes the pressure off knowing they can't be overtaken if results don't go their way the next game, and that's a nice position to be in. So I think it's an important game for Fulham. These are the ones you expect to win, the home ones, against teams that are fighting relegation. And like I said when I came here for Southampton, if I was a betting man, you'd absolutely go with the home side, but I would have lost my money against Wolves and I would have lost my money against Southampton.
And in regards to Kieran McKenna and Ipswich, back-to-back promotions, which is tough to do in the even with momentum, it's tough to do. They've had some investment in Suffolk, of course they have, Nick, and they can move out of the bottom 3 today. A win today and they can move out of the bottom 3. We've seen seen the other two members of the bottom three and promoted sides replace their managers. Leicester have replaced two managers actually since the man had guided them up. But that wasn't their fault to replace Enzo Maresca, but they then subsequently replaced his replacement. Southampton have now made a change, doesn't seem to have made a difference. You never got a sense that whatever happened this season that Ipswich were going to want to move Kieran McKenna on. The only way he was going to move on is if someone else came looking for it.
Yeah, I think I'm almost certain that Kieran McKenna will choose the nature and the manner of his departure from Ipswich Town Football Club. I'm pretty certain of that, because if you get two promotions in a row, you have every excuse, you have every reason to not necessarily prosper in that third year, because the Premier League is so incredibly difficult. I think it's quite interesting what you were saying, Steve, about Fulham struggling against the Southamptons and the Wolves. I almost put Ipswich in a separate bracket to that, because they are still running on the fumes of what's happened over the last couple of years, and they have these really great moments, but it tends to be against bigger clubs. They've beaten Chelsea, they've drawn against Manchester United, and they've beaten Tottenham. That's the majority of their points all so far. They were in stoppage time against Wolves when they beat Wolverhampton Wanderers. So this looks a very, very hard game from an Ipswich perspective. Fulham are going to be a bit careful of that, but Ipswich have struggled against, if you like, really well coached Premier League teams. They don't have to be the best Premier League teams, they have to be the most sparkling talent who are going to have 95% of the possession, but they really come unstuck against teams who know their business, don't find themselves under massive amounts of pressure, and just go about things with all the Premier League know-how that, quite frankly, Ipswich don't have. There's a reason they haven't got any Premier League know-how, it's because six of these players, whatever it was, were in League One 2 years ago. That's all very reasonable, but they haven't got that know-how, that ability to just kind of engineer results, which is why they've lost against a lot of the teams around them, and that may be why they end up going down.
Yeah, I mean, they've had 5 losses in the last 7, and 4 have been by the odd goal. So these are tight games, but it is incredibly difficult. I have been in a side that's come up from the Championship through the playoffs, and we did get relegated. And I can't tell you how big the gap is when you come up. And we didn't play a certain way. It wasn't like we came up with a certain style. We had a manager that would adjust accordingly to the opponent. But they just had players. We could be on top of games 60, 70 minutes, but the 20 minutes we weren't, we got absolutely punished. And that takes a hell of an adjustment, because you have to adjust your mindset a little bit. The things you could get away with in the Championship, you just don't get away with at the top level. But if you don't adjust, sadly, you end up looking at what we're looking at, which is the 3 sitting in the bottom 3. I hope, and we've had this discussion many times, I always hope that the 3 that come up, at least one stays up. You've got to break the monotony, and I think out of the 3 down there, Ipswich will be the one for me, I think, that could find a run of form that keeps them in the Premier League for next season.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good look when the promoted teams, all 3 of them, go down, and then maybe it's 2 of the relegated teams that come back with someone else, or maybe it's 1 and 2, but there needs to be some way, there needs to be a methodology within the way that the clubs go about it. Maybe the league goes about it to try and help sides at least have a chance of staying up, you'd have to say, Steve, for the integrity of the competition. Talking about upward mobility, our other featured game today, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff in East Cheshire. Bromley can move, or South Cheshire, Bromley can move to within 2 points of the playoff places in League 2 today with a win at Crewe. The Ravens are on a magnificent run, 12 unbeaten in the league. They face 7th placed Alex, whose form has been a little indifferent, I think it's fair to say. Charlotte Richardson's there for us this afternoon, having battled up through the weather with a police escort by the sound of it in the background, Charlotte.
Good afternoon, guys. I've made it here safe and sound, and I have to admit, the irony of being sat here looking across the pitch, which is perfectly playable, can barely see any snow, but I had the ice cream van stand directly opposite me. Not quite the weather for it, but in terms of form, Bromley have been red hot, as you mentioned, unbeaten in 12 matches. Andy Woodman has done such a fantastic job bringing this squad together, adapting them to the demands of League 2. Crewe haven't been beaten here since August, but with the form that the Ravens come into this one, you hope that Bromley can carry on that form, get another good result ahead of a very, very eye-catching FA Cup draw, a trip to St James's Park next Sunday. So this should be a really good one, a really interesting 90 minutes to come here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's. I think it's one. I'm just looking at the stats. One league defeat since September the 21st. I mean, it's been a lot of draws finding their feet, but they really have found their feet now, Bromley. And we talked about Sutton in their first season up, and they made a play for the playoffs, just missing out. It's a chat in South East London, Charlotte, that the Ravens can do likewise.
There is plenty of chat, and I think one of the things that goes a little bit underrated about the way that Andy Woodman sets up his teams is that they are really hard to beat. The defensive principles always tend to be really, really solid. He has plenty of height, plenty of physicality in his defensive line, and with Michael Cheek as the centre forward that the kind of offensive moves are based around, they're always going to have a chance of winning games. But one thing as well I've always noticed, and I watched Bromley play Gillingham just a couple of days ago, they might not always be in charge of the ball, Bromley, but more often or not they're in control of the game. They're a side that's happy to let others have possession, but they'll take their moments and they'll be clinical, and I think sometimes that gets a little bit overlooked. I actually read an article on the way up, Andy Woodman, in the papers today, and it was a great quote, and Woody's a brilliant guy, and he always provides these one-liners, but he says something like, you don't get points for 500 passes. I want to win games, I want to be competitive, and I want to shake off this label about little old Bromley. And I think it's safe to say in his tenure, and not just in the last year but beforehand, the way that he led the club to the FA Trophy final, that audience at Wembley has helped them build the crowds, and this away travelling now that follows the football club plays a huge part as well. He's done a brilliant job.
Yeah, and as you say, that away travelling is going to travel in numbers next weekend up to St James's Park, which is of course a return to his old stomping ground for Woody, who was the goalkeeping coach up there with Alan Pardew. Secured a very lengthy contract, if I remember rightly, the load of them up there under Mike Ashley as well. I mean, he will be absolutely revelling in the. I know he won't admit it, but he'll be looking forward to that massively, won't he?
It's a city that holds a real place in his heart. His children grew up there, and it was the draw that he wished for, and it was the draw that he got. And I don't think you can begrudge those storylines. It's what makes the FA Cup so special. And I think the fact that Newcastle are in such an incredible vein of form adds to the occasion of it all. I think if any of us wanted to draw in the FA Cup, I know certainly I would love to go to St James's Park. I've never been there. You know the Geordies are going to make it an incredible atmosphere. Bromley are going to travel in style. I think the chairman might have even covered some coaches, the cost of some coaches to take up there, which is brilliant because the supporters deserve that, especially those that have been there through the Isthmian League, into the National League, went to that FA Trophy final that didn't quite go Bromley's way, were there a few years later afterwards. Those are the moments that I think football clubs deserve, and I was talking to some former colleagues actually at Bromley, and so few clubs have the momentum that Bromley genuinely has behind it, both on the field and off the field as well. It's going to be really special and a wonderful occasion, and another opportunity for Bromley to assert themselves as an EFL club on the map, on the radar of more people.
Yeah, looking forward to that as well. I'm looking forward to this afternoon's game, Charlotte. Thank you very much indeed. Charlotte will have team news for us in 10-15 minutes time at Gresty Road. Crew against Bromley. No Fleetwood against AFC Wimbledon though. That was called off earlier today. Mark Taylor was already shoveling his car out the driveway to try and get to see the Cod Army against the Wombles, but he didn't need to. The game was pulled this afternoon. As Charlotte was saying, it is a uniqueness about Crewe that the stand opposite the main stand, which is ridiculously big, the main stand for a team the size of Crewe, with all due respect, is called the Ice Cream Van stand. Steve, we love that.
Time when you need the ice cream vans, the season's done and dusted.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. Used to be a really good chippy just out the back as well at Gresty Road on the way to the station.
I played Crewe in the Championship against Charlton, so we would have sampled the fish and chips on the way in for sure.
That's what they used to do all the time, isn't it? And the Addicts, that's why the Addicts got their name, didn't it? Box of fish for the opponents.
It is, yeah. Yeah, well done you.
Right, let's hear from the Fulham boss as we build up to kick-off here at Craven Cottage now. Fulham head into the game this afternoon, knowing a win takes them back up to 8th in the Premier League table. They have, of course, dropped points in games, 6 in the last 5. Marco Silva says they've just got to be more clinical.
This is a good word. We have really to be more ruthless and to be more mature. I think not just this game. I know that the last game is always the game that is more in our mind. The way the game was completely under control. I know that it's not the first time that happened with Bournemouth their capacity to the end of the games to change and to score goals in the last minutes of the game. Some points that they have been achieving away from home, coming from that situations. They are a tough team to play again, to play when they are away from home. But in that moment, the game was under control, not really dangerous around our box. We, since we scored the second goal, was closer to the 3-1 than the 2-2, and the game was under control. We gave one ball away and they punished us.
Some of those drop points so far this season, I think 17 in total, isn't it, for Fulham, have come against the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal and Bournemouth. No disgrace maybe in getting draws against those clubs, but Silva has been working out how to get his players more ruthless.
But to tell them what we should do in that moment, and they should be much more ruthless and more mature. And okay, we had enough maturity on the pitch to don't do certain type of things, and of course you have to realize the moments of the game and how we should play in the beginning of the game, how we should play in the end of the game, if you are winning or if you are not winning, and all that stuff. And each one of them, they have to realize that the game needs to be read every single minute of the game, and if you are winning or if you are not, last 10 minutes, first 10 minutes, and is always different, and you have always to be the right approach for each moment. Because as you said, one thing, if you are the teams are better than you in the last 15 minutes, they push you back and they create chances and chances. Of course, we are playing against the top sides and can happen. Some games was not the case. West Ham was not the case. At home, Everton away was not the case. The last game against Bournemouth was not the case. And just to give you some examples that I can give you even more, and that's to come from all of us to demand more in that type of moment.
Well, the squad, after quite a lot of work, is now real depth to it, which means a number of players have to be game changers, not starters. The likes of Harry Wilson, Armand Traoré, for example, they're players who've had to make an impact off the bench this season. Marco says that's just the reality of the situation.
They are, and they are. That is the reality. They are. Most of them, to don't say almost all of them, they already start games, and that is there is, apart from one or two players, all the others, they have started the games, and I want them always ready to have an impact and to help the team to win football matches, and from the bench and as a starting 11 player, 95 minutes or 10 minutes or 5, that is the main thing. But of course we can demand this from them, you can show them they are all important, but at the end, after, if they don't have the right character and the right personality as well, it's going to be more difficult to do it. Of course, first is our goal and our aim is always to play for the club and not for each one of us, and to, of course, first becomes always the Fulham Football Club, and each one of them, they are going to improve definitely in individual point of view, but again, it has to come really from the character that you have inside our dressing room, and you have a fantastic group of players.
Well, finally, let's get Marco's take on today's opponent, shall we? Ipswich Town, who can themselves climb out of the bottom 3 with a win.
Good organisation and really well managed, and very good players in my opinion. I think what they did last summer showed their ambition as a club, and they have some young players in certain areas of the pitch that they can punish you anytime, and the players with the quality, they are really aggressive on and off the ball. They are a difficult team to play, because that they have been most of the times, apart from one or two results, of course, or one or two games, they have been really there playing and trying to match any team in this league, and it's going to be a difficult one. We had that feeling when we played there. I think it was the third game of the season when we played against them away from home, and we had the feeling we drew the game. Of course, now we want to get the 3 points, but we want to play at our best level, because just at our best level we can win the game.
Flamethrowers, fireworks, loud booming music as the players march from the cottage, which still has its Christmas decorations just about hanging on. One more day, they've got to come down tomorrow, folks, of course, unless you are in the Orthodox tradition, and then Christmas can go on for quite a lot longer, I think it's fair to say. Lots of smoke hanging around the Riverside stand, which has grown and grown and grown over the years. Fans are packed in at the Hammersmith and Putney ends, and this Johnny Haynes stand on the Stevenage Road, and it's Ipswich Town being hosted by Fulham. Live on BBC Radio London this afternoon, your commentary team, Steve Brown, former Premier League defender, and Nick Godwin.
Thank you very much indeed, Phil. Yes, it's a lovely atmosphere inside the stadium, partly obscured by a bit of fog, and then they let a lot of fireworks off, so the slightly grey, slightly murky conditions only worsened by the explosive entry by the two teams. That should shift, although I think it's starting to rain as well. It is very much a winter's day, but not that cold, and it's usually cold in this part of town by the river, but given the fact that, as Phil was mentioning, we had a dusting of snow overnight, it is very mild in this part of the world for this 2 o'clock kickoff. Let's bring you the two lineups as we get ready to go. Fulham have Bernd Leno in goal, a back three of Joachim Andersen, Issa Diop and Calvin Bassey, with Timothy Castagna and Anthony Robinson as the two wing backs. Sasa Lukic and Tom Kearney making his second Premier League start of the season in midfield at the expense of Andreas Pereira, with Alex Iwobi and Harry Wilson supporting Raul Jimenez up front. Christian Walton is the Ipswich goalkeeper. A back three of Luke Wolfen, Dundara O'Shea and Jacob Greaves. In the wing-back positions, Ben Johnson and Leif Davis, with Sam Morsey and Jens Kajust in the middle, Sammy Smodic and Nathan Broadhead behind Liam Delap as the main striker. On the bench for Fulham, Stephen Bender's the goalkeeper, George Cuenca, Marshall Godot, Andreas Pereira, Josh King, Rodrigo Muniz, Ryan Sessegnon, Emile Smith-Rowe and Adama Traore. And for Ipswich, Ali Al-Hamadi used to play his football down the road at Wimbledon, Cameron Burgess, Wes Burns, Harry Clark, Jack Clark, Aaronette Murich is the goalkeeper, Calvin Phillips on loan from Manchester City, Jack Taylor and Connor Townsend. We are about to get underway. Our referee today is Darren Bond. Paul Tierney is in charge of the VAR, and Fulham in their white shirts, black shorts and white socks are ready to go. Ipswich in their lurid away kit, bright pink shirts, bright pink shorts and bright pink socks. Quite how blue and white clashes with Fulham's home kit, I don't know, but any excuse to play in your away kit these days, even if it is possible to see it from space, and to be honest with you, given how gloomy the conditions are, Ipswich's kit does rather stand out. We're underway in the Premier League on BBC Radio London, and a Fulham player has gone down clutching his face early on. I'm sure it'll get sorted out in a minute, but is that Harry Wilson, who seems to have landed awkwardly, and it's Sasa Lukic, I beg your pardon, who has now got up. And he was pushed over by Liam Delap. That is vintage Liam Delap, actually. Early on, he does like to give combative other players in his part of the pitch a bit of a whack in the opening exchanges. Steve Brown's alongside me. You'd have never done anything like that, Steve.
Oh no, it's exactly what I'd have done. Yeah, and I would have taken the hit as well, and I would have probably gone down exactly the same as Lukic. But yeah, he's just protecting his centre half. The kickoff goes straight back to Anderson, and you're just protecting him, giving him a little bit more time to push that ball forward.
Goes back to Bernd Leno. Fulham are playing out from the back. Here's Anthony Robinson in the left wing back position. He's going to find Tom Kearney now, who in turn goes back to Leno. Just gets away from him, actually. He has to scurry to make sure he keeps that away from Delap, who is starting to throw his weight around in that part of the field. But Fulham have kept the ball. They haven't gone anywhere, but they have very definitely kept the ball as they try and play out from the back. And they found Alex Iwobi, again just outside his own penalty area, but now Fulham are out as they come forward with Timothy Castagna on that right hand side. Into the feet of Harry Wilson, who has been amongst the goals recently in a Fulham shirt. We saw him get those two against Brentford a few weeks ago on that extraordinary Monday night when Brentford led for so long, and Wilson popped up twice in stoppage time to take the points away from Thomas Frank's side. And they took them until yesterday to win an away game, didn't it? Their big victory over Southampton. Here's Tom Kearney for Fulham, just inside Ipswich territory. Wide to Iwobi on that left-hand side. He's got Calvin Bassey running beyond him. Bassey's taken up an inside forward position just for a few moments up against Dara O'Shea, but he'll go back into the back three now. Underlapping centre half, Steve. Popping up in centre forward positions, whatever next.
Yeah, I mean, this is a brilliant bout of possession from Fulham, and it's psychologically going to have an effect on Ipswich Town, because they started with quite a high pressing formation, and that's dropped really deep.
Ball forward looking for Wilson, headed away by Greaves for Ipswich. Then Iwobi's recycled it, but Morsey's got stuck in and manages to find Delap, who turns Anderson and bustles forward and uses Broadhead, who's alongside him. He's got Smodic to his right. Here come Ipswich, cross into the box, looking for Delap. It comes back to Smodic, who goes to ground. The ball runs loose on the edge of the Fulham penalty area, and Bassi clears. Well, there's the game plan from an Ipswich perspective. Fulham had the ball for so long, but as soon as Ipswich got the chance to break forward, great work by Delap, and he almost got on the end of the Smodic cross. Iwobi has charged down the left, kept the ball in play, but presented an opportunity for Ben Johnson to clear. An insightful moment or two about the way both these teams are going to try and run this game.
Yeah, they're both, by the looks of it, very, very comfortable in possession. You know, you expect both to have a little press to try and win the ball, but at this moment in time, watching both build-ups from both sets of players, they're very comfortable building from deep areas.
The rain is falling down by the river on this Sunday lunchtime on BBC Radio London. Normal programming continuing on 94.9 FM. Here's Lukic and wide to Castagna on that right side. They've moved Ipswich into their own third of the field for a few moments. Kearney in a central position now, switches it wide to Anthony Robinson, down the left running at Johnson, wants to go past Johnson, does get past Johnson, gets held up though in the process, and Sammy Smodic is going to run this clear, down the channel it goes, Anderson dips in, gets there ahead of Delap. Here come Fulham again. I think there was a foul. The referee's waved advantage. Here's Iwobi on the edge of the Ipswich penalty area, goes wide to the left, and Robinson. There is a bit of a blustery wind around Craven Cottage, which you can probably hear on our microphone, so that's part of the setup here, and this teeming rain as well that has been falling, well, to be honest, since the snow stopped about midnight. Collected by Bassi just inside the Fulham half of the field. Striding run forward by the centre half, eating up territory. Wide to Kearney on the left side. Kearney's cross is over here. Walton's going to have to watch it, and it lands on the roof of the net. I don't think there was a touch on Walton. He was watching it closely. I think that was an overhit cross by Tom Kearney, but it had the Ipswich goalkeeper scurrying backwards. We've had 5 minutes and it's 0-0.
Yeah, you're exactly right with what you're saying, Nick. He's gone for the cross into the middle of the 6-yard box for Jimenez, and he's just overhit it, Kearney. Roof of the net, but it needed a little bit of attention from Walton to make sure it wasn't dropping under.
Just a bit of a heads up, I think it's fair to say, from Christian Walton, who's back in the side after what has been a difficult time for him on the bench. He started the first game of the season against Liverpool, was then restricted to a League Cup outing against AFC Wimbledon, but came back in against Chelsea, a game that Ipswich won. Both these sides have beaten Chelsea recently. In fact, they both contributed to slightly derailing Chelsea's title push. But here come Fulham again. It's 0-0 on BBC Radio London. They're going to go to Gresty Road in just a second to get team news ahead of Crewe against Bromley, which gets underway at 3. But Fulham building from the centre of midfield once again. And it's with Anthony Robinson on that left-hand side. Good tussle against Ben Johnson already. Iwobi's moved into a central position. Here's Harry Wilson with the ball at his feet. Wide to Castagna. Right-hand side. Gets held up level with the edge of the penalty area. Comes back to Wilson. It's patient and it's probing from Fulham as they try and work something on that right side. Here's Wilson's cross. Headed away from danger by Wolfenden rather. Comes out to this near side of the field, and Kearney. Robinson again, it's slowed down a touch, Steve, but Fulham are really working Ipswich one way or the other.
This is no different than the Brentford game here and the Southampton game here, and we sort of predicted that. This is what Fulham have struggled against. They're excellent in possession, and teams just drop very, very deep, protect the top of the 18-yard box, and have two quite tight lines in front of that. It's very difficult to break down, and you've just got to keep moving the ball nice and sharp. I've seen a couple of lovely bits of interchangeable movement between Jimenez and Wilson. Wilson made a wonderful run in behind Greaves moments ago. It wasn't spotted, and that's the issue when you're up against this kind of formation, is if you miss something in a heartbeat, it's done, it's shut off, and you're back to keeping possession and this low block that we're seeing from Ipswich Town when they're out of possession. It was a really important moment actually. When we saw Delap win the ball in front of Anderson earlier, it was Ipswich's only fleeting moment to break into Fulham's half. Moments later, Anderson right on top of that first ball up, nicked in front, which allowed Fulham to maintain possession and pressure.
Here come Ipswich again on the halfway line. Stand by, Charlotte Richardson will be with you shortly. Here is Delap in a central position, trying to wheel away from Lukic, and Lukic just caught him. It's a free kick to Ipswich, just over 20 yards from goal, quite central. And let's get that team news from Gresty Road and Charlotte Richardson.
One change to the Bromley side, who so convincingly beat Gillingham 3-0 on Thursday. Experienced defender Callum Reynolds slots back into the 11, so a 4-4-2 formation for the visitors. Smith in goal, Grant, Shomi, Reynolds and Odoteo the back four. Bromley lining up with the midfield four of Imre, Thompson, Arthurs, Whiteley and Michael Cheek, partnered up front with Louis Dennis. Bromley have won 3 of their last 5, unbeaten in 12, and will be in confident mood ahead of kick-off at 3 p.m. against Crewe.
Thank you, Charlotte. We'll keep you up to date on how Bromley do from 3. This free kick is going to be looked after by Sam Morsey. I wondered if Leif Davis might look at this with his left foot, but he's moved away, and I'm not sure Morsey's going to shoot from here. It's 25 yards out, Steve.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. It doesn't look to me that he's going to take the shot. He's looking at the ball over the top to the centre half.
Clipped towards the far post, and well, Leif Davis tried to get the cross and it's blocked. It comes out to O'Shea. Ipswich still in possession. Goes back to Kajus, the midfielder on loan from Napoli. Here's the cross, looks for Smodics and he can't get on the end of it. A stretch from the former Blackburn man. He couldn't quite connect. And now Fulham are going to try and run this away with Anthony Robinson. Ipswich's best chance so far, Steve Brown.
Yeah.
At the other end of the field, this is going to be headed into the path of Wilson, who stretches himself. Can't get the end of Jimenez's header into the penalty area. Half chances at both ends, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, the Leif Davis cross is exquisite. Smodics gets away from his man at the near post. It just needs a touch, and Ipswich potentially would have had the lead, but he couldn't get anything on it. It's very, very close. Good movement, great delivery. Moments later, from that overhit cross, as it turns out, once Smodics doesn't get on it, Fulham break. And it's that diagonal again, with this run over and over we're seeing from Wilson in behind Greaves.
Wilson sets it for Castagna, whose cross is headed away only as far as Delap, who holds this up well on the edge of his own penalty area. Ipswich trying to construct a counter-attack, but they go back to Christian Walton, who left-footed lifts it high. One for Bassi to deal with in the air. Delap is close to him. Bassi has steered this away from Liam Delap with his head. And Fulham the Fulham fans are appreciative. They know the threat that Delap carries at the moment. Anderson, Diop, Bassi are dealing with it.
Yeah, but he's had a couple of moments. The free kick was one. It's going to be a very good battle, actually, between Delap and that Fulham defence, because he's not going to stop. He looks like he's one of those centre forwards that will chase lost causes, put you under pressure. That wasn't an easy ball to deal with for Bassi. As a centre half, you get caught underneath it. There's no power on the ball. You can hear the breath of the centre forward coming. You know you're going to take a hit. He dealt with that very, very well, the Fulham defender.
It's like a stampede, Delap, isn't he? You can hear him coming,
and you know you're physically going to take a knock.
Yeah, you're just kind of holding your breath and waiting for the hit to come. But Bassi dealt with that well. But it is a great tussle at the moment as Jimenez drops into his own half to try and win that. Jumping is Anderson, gets above Broadhead and nods it back into Ipswich territory. Greaves uses Davis, who goes back to Walton. Interesting contest this already, actually, Steve, between these two. You can see where the battles are being played out. You can see what Fulham, those balls over the top for Wilson. Ipswich trying to use Delap's strength and power.
Yeah, there's a couple of nice battles developing. This is probably the biggest of the lot. Delap up against those centre halves, but Bassi, he's pushed on almost to the left back at the moment. They did set up with a back 3, but Bassi sort of come out to this left back spot.
Yes, they've almost abandoned the...
Yeah. I think they see that's the best way to build up play. It's not to have a back 3 across the width of the box, but have just the 2 of the 3 centre halves split across the width of the 8-yard box. And Bassi is high and left, and that allows Robinson, who's in that left wing back spot, to tuck inside and overload midfield.
It's almost like a free roll for Robinson. Once Bassi squares off that left side of the pitch, Robinson can do what he likes. He can go and stand in front of Bassi. He can join in midfield.
Yeah, this is the game. This is the modern game.
Yeah,
it sets off a one formation. They're very, very good, these coaches. They know where they can get an advantage, and obviously what's been spotted is Bassi pushing up higher and now Robinson to tuck in, and a movement I'm seeing a lot is this from Wilson. It's off the back of Greaves or short to pick the ball up.
Castagne's overlap, it's cut off by Greaves on the edge of his own 6-yard area. Fulham have earned their first corner of the game after 12 minutes at 0-0 here on BBC Radio London. And Harry Wilson's seeing an awful lot of the football at the moment, and he's part of these attacks that use Castagna as well, and he's now coming across to the area in front of the Ipswich fans at the Putney end of the ground to take this left-footed corner. Swung in. Anderson goes into the box. Bassi in there as well. Issa Diop's probably the tallest of the lot. Iwobi at the near post. Castagna in there too. Headed away by Greaves to Lukic, who volleys it back into the 18-yard area. It'll come out to Calvin Bassi on that left-hand side. No flag against him, so the game continues. Bassi holds it up, uses Anderson in a crossing position. Anderson has swung this in, and Jimenez got round the back, but Johnson was able to clear for Ipswich, and now Delap's trying to lead the counter. Wilson dispossesses him, and Fulham are exerting more pressure. Bassi on the left once again. All the big units have stayed forward, including Diop. It's going to drop to Broadhead, who clips the ball into no man's land, really. Ipswich has had to get that out. Fulham's starting to exert some pressure.
Oh yeah, they can't get out, and they've just gone long to Delap. He made a run into a wide left position, and they went straight down the centre, but there's a couple of very, very good deliveries into the box. I thought Diop should have been a bit more aggressive, a little bit stronger. The ball was there for him to win, and he couldn't get anything on the header because it was easily physically manhandled. But Fulham on top. The possession stats are almost 80-20. Ipswich just can't keep hold of the ball when they win possession.
Minutes applause inside the ground for young Zach Little, who lost his life this week. Here come Fulham again with a cross from Wilson into the penalty area, cleared away. So he was just 13 years of age, which is why the minutes applause is on the 13th minute. Very touching mark of respect here as Fulham continue to attack with Bassi. The cross is blocked, and then Robinson tries to get hold of it. Johnson puts it out of play. It's going to be a throw-in to Fulham deep inside the Ipswich half of the field. Everyone was on their feet for that minute's applause, beautifully marked. Now they take their seats once again in the Johnny Haynes stand, and they watch Robinson wind up this throw deep inside Ipswich territory. 0-0 as this is helped on by Iwobi into the box. It's cleared by Nathan Broadhead. Clever football to get the ball away from danger, and he's found Delap on the halfway line. Ipswich start to move through the gears down their left hand side. Delap has held it up. He's got some support from Leif Davis on that left hand side. All of a sudden Fulham have to pour those white shirts back inside their own half of the field, and Luke Wolfenden picks it up inside the centre circle. He guides it wide to Johnson on the right. Ipswich a bit tentative. In fact, they've gone back into their own half with O'Shea once again. Fulham have reorganised.
Yeah. They got back into a defensive shape very, very quickly. It was a really swift counter between Broadhead and Delap, but the minute they turn around, play backwards and sideways, Fulham had...
Kajus has been dispossessed, but he's been given a free kick. Sasa Lukic thought he got the better of the midfielder Kajus, but the referee blew his whistle. Sasa Lukic was incandescent.
Well, it was very good pressure at pace. Kajus caught in possession, and I didn't see, I'm waiting for the replay, but I didn't really see enough physical contact for that to be given. That's why he was incensed.
Ipswich trying to play out from the back. Goes Robinson challenging Johnson. The throw-in goes Ipswich's way, and Anthony Robinson is right in the face of our referee Darren Bond to say that should have gone our way. The assistant referee was quite a long way from it.
And wrong side, and if he's guessed, he was wrong side. That was absolutely a Fulham throw-in, without any shadow of a doubt. But he's wrong side, he's blindsided to it. Why can't he have a little look at his assistant? He's looking straight down the line, I don't know. But he's guessed, and he's got it wrong.
0-0. Here's Broadhead on halfway. Lukic has been penalised again for another challenge, this time on Broadhead. And Sasa Lukic's sense of injustice is growing all the time. It's another free kick to Ipswich inside their centre circle, and the locals don't like it.
Yeah, we don't often hear too much aggression from the Fulham fans, but this is about as incensed as they get, actually, Nick. And again, I'm just looking at shots of Marco Silva, and he's trying to get an explanation out of the fourth official. Good luck with that.
Well, I was going to say, the fourth official's no mind really. He's miles from what was going on. Here's Greaves, rolls it forward into the Fulham penalty area, looking for Delap. Anderson with the clearance to halfway. Jimenez tries to hold it up, but it bounces out of play off him. Oh no, it's an Ipswich throw now. Ironic cheers. And a Fulham throw, rather. The Ipswich players thought it was an Ipswich throw. They've not protested quite as vociferously, probably because they know they've had the rub of the green in the last couple of minutes or so. But Marco Silva's still not terribly pleased. with what he's seen from the officials in the last few minutes. And it is still 0-0. You listen to BBC Radio London. We've had 17 minutes of the first half.
Yeah, and sadly for me, I've been here 3 times recently to watch Fulham, and this has been the pattern of the game. You know, lots of possession, build-up plays excellent, but oppositions have dropped all the way down to their 18-yard boxes and protected that 18-yard box well, so we don't see a great deal of action. Goalmouth action, that is.
The Phil Parry stat machine says 73% possession for Fulham as they clear to halfway, and Greaves collects for Ipswich. Now Morsey. They haven't really created a great deal with that possession either, have they, Steve?
No, just a couple of crosses actually, and that's why I said Diop had to be a little bit more aggressive. The ball was superb and he didn't really attack it with any physicality. Could have knocked the centre half out of the way a little bit and tried to be aggressive, but he didn't, and it was easily cleaned up. But the best chance actually is the cross in from Leif Davis, with Smolix almost getting a touch. That's probably the best and closest that either side have come to conjuring up an opportunity on goal.
Long ball forward by Walton. Ben Johnson the target for this. He gets his head onto it, but he was being challenged by Robinson, and it goes to Deleno away to our right hand side. A reminder, Crewe against Burnley gets underway at 3 o'clock. And if you haven't heard, the snow is done for Fleetwood against AFC Wimbledon. That was called off earlier this morning. Tomorrow, 2 diary notices for you. We have live commentary in the evening on digital radio of QPR against Luton, the build up from 6 o'clock on all frequencies. And tomorrow morning you just set your alarm for 6 a.m. because Aaron Paul is going to be launching his new breakfast show tomorrow with all the pomp and circumstance that you would expect. Should be a compelling listen from 6 in the morning, only here on BBC Radio London. Free kick to Fulham, halfway inside the Ipswich half of the field, slightly to the right. Preju's penalised.
Sorry, Nick. I almost think that's out of sympathy a little bit. We're getting it's like
a sympathy free kick.
Yeah, there's nothing in that. There's literally nothing in it. If anything, Kearney sort of trips himself up. But because he's given 2 free kicks against Lukic that were questionable, I think he's just literally tried to. Yeah, may have made a mistake there. I'll rectify that with this little one. Honestly, you see the replay. There is nothing in that challenge whatsoever.
Lukic and Wilson over this. It is over 30 yards out, maybe 35 yards out, and slightly to the right as Fulham look at it. It's going to be left for Lukic, who clips it into the box, and it's headed away towards the edge of his own penalty area by Johnson. It comes back in, and then O'Shea climbs and nods it clear as far as Bassi on the left, plays it infield for Kearney, swings in across, and Jimenez's header is saved by Walton down to his right. Raul Jimenez looks to the heavens, he made good contact. Here's another cross by Kearney, headed away by Wolfenden this time, and that is the first real save of the day and the first real chance for Fulham, 0-0.
Yeah, and that's about the 5th cross that Ipswich have allowed to come in from Fulham's left-hand side. If it's not Bassi, it's Kearney. If it's not Kearney, it's Iwobi, and they've got to do a little bit more at Ipswich Town to shut down the player in possession looking to cross, because they've got so much time to take a touch, get it out their feet, look up, spot the players in the box, and then deliver. Really, if I was McKenna, I'd want somebody out there harassing the player in possession a bit more. These crosses are coming in completely, passively in terms of Ipswich not putting any pressure on.
Here come Fulham again, bit of space for Wilson, edge of the box, into Jimenez, who turns and shoots, comes back to Wilson, who kicks fresh air inside the D. Oh, he's won it back, and he's still going. Wilson goes through 3 defenders, then gets it taken away from him. Ipswich can clear, then they lose it. Smolix can't get it out, and here comes Iwobi. Forward to Robinson on the touchline, back to Iwobi in a crossing position. They're trying to deal with the crosses. Oh, brilliant for Iwobi, little nutmeg, and then the shot is blocked behind by Kajus for a Fulham corner. They are starting to knock on the door, the Cottagers.
Yeah, I think the game needs a goal as well, if I'm honest, to stretch it a little bit, force Ipswich to try and attack a little bit more than they are, but this is a nutmeg. Yeah. As clean as you'll see. We're just seeing a replay of the Jimenez header. It was an easy save in the end, but it's a delightful cross, well attacked by Jimenez, but it is an easy save for Walton. But yeah, that was as clean a nutmegs as you see.
Here's the corner, Lukic to take it, right hand side, and he will right-footed bend it in. They've got some big units to aim at. Diop, Anderson, this is headed away by Greaves as far as Bassi. There was a shout of handball from the Ipswich fans, not given by the referee.
Oh, again, I think that's clear as day. Be interested if this leads to something.
The referee was in a good position to spot it as well. Here's Wilson, 25 yards from Ipswich's goal. The Fulham fans shouting handball at every opportunity now, just enjoying themselves on this wintry day. It's with Iwobi on the left-hand side, lifts in a cross, watched closely and cleared by Greaves for Ipswich. It's going to drop to Robinson in the middle of the field, goes back to Bassey on halfway, and it is literally all Fulham. They've had one chance, Jimenez denied by Walton. Iwobi leaves it for Lukic, 30 yards from goal, wide to the left, and Robinson. In comes the cross, it's attacked by Jimenez once again, headed away from danger by Jacob Greaves. It's a real tussle, the crosses keep coming in. Ipswich just about dealing with them.
Yeah, that's actually a very good header from Greaves. I think Wolfenden's covered across a little bit too much, and the delivery's cleared him, and that sometimes catches the far centre half out, but Greaves recovered very, very well and made a very good clearance, almost from behind Jimenez actually. But yeah, I just want, this is very, very similar to the Brentford performance, and how much pressure can you soak up? You've got to have at least an ambition to try and spend some time in the Fulham half, you know, but they just can't get hold of the ball. But I do think they do have to put a little bit more pressure. They don't seem to have a set trap where there's a player or a situation where they all go and try and apply pressure together to win it back. It's a bit too passive for me. Fulham in total control in terms of possession.
It is still 0-0 though. I don't know what Ipswich's XG is, but I don't think it's very high. Apparently it's zero, which means there is. I'm right in saying that means, and I'm no expert in these matters, that means they have no chance of scoring.
I don't think anyone's an expert on XG.
I don't know what it means really. But
sometimes you look and it's at 1.3 and you don't know how. They've had the one cross and there was no touch, so I'd suggest that the XG doesn't register on that because it wasn't a threat.
It won't surprise you to hear that Fulham are on the attack. And here is Tom Kearney on the right, Lukic to Anderson. This is all inside Ipswich territory. And it's a hesitation by Bassey, but it'll swivel of the hips to take it away from Sammy Morsey. Lukic with Morsey in front of him. And wide to Kearney on the right.
Yeah, I mean that back five just pinned as a back five, isn't it? Just shuffling side to side. It's staying inside the width of the 18-yard box, and then the only reason it separates and tries to cover off the wide players is when the ball is played out there.
Kearney wide to Castagna on the right. He's going to win a corner here. No, goal kick. Oh dear, they won't like that. They felt they've had the rub of the green when it comes to the decisions recently. Timothy Castagna looks as though he's been traduced on that side of the field. But goal kick Ipswich, and we're 25 minutes into this first half at 0-0. Christian Walton's going to position the ball, and
they've just showed a replay. Remember when Harry Wilson bundled his way through about four players?
Yes.
The ball bounced up actually and hit one of the Ipswich centre halves on the arm. But you can't draw it back now. That was about 4 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago.
Well, I'm not saying they're not the sharpest tacks in the VAR office, but I'd say these days 4 minutes is quite a good period of time actually for them.
I think that's definitely one. If the referee doesn't see it,
I'm sure. In all seriousness, I'm sure it was checked at the time and deemed not to be sufficiently egregious for the referee to overrule his decision. But to be fair, that's the TV director just having a moment in the game to catch up with what was a VAR chance, because they're all checked as we're told. It's just some of the decision making that is rather questionable. Here's Robinson into Tom Kearney once again. It goes back to the halfway line, and Joachim Anderson, and well, not for the first time.
I don't think this is the worst thing actually, going back to Leno just outside his 18-yard box, because at least you're separating that really defensive shape that Ipswich get in when Fulham, and at least you're trying to separate and get gaps between the units.
A chance for Wilson to break forward, and he's kept away from Davis, and Davis brings him down. I think this may be a yellow card for Leif Davis, because I think he knew what he was doing. Wilson had nipped between two Ipswich defenders and was away. I'm not sure it's going to be classed as a clear goal-scoring opportunity, but here comes the card, and it is going to be yellow.
Yeah, and that's the correct card. Listen, I did say that was a great idea to try and separate the units, and they separated Ipswich lovely, and Wilson found a nice little gap between midfield and back line, exploited it, burst away, and I think it's Leif Davis who covers inside, but if I'm honest with you, I think there's enough cover here. Is there enough cover?
Is it a clear goal-scoring opportunity, Steve?
Well, that angle there is closed off. You can only see Wilson going down the centre of the pitch. There's one defender which would be on the right side of the pitch, Ipswich's right side, covering back inside onto Leif Davis. And could he cover enough ground if that challenge wasn't made? Now, it's questionable, I have to say. It's not as clear-cut as a definite the cover was on.
No, Marco Silva has just watched the same replay we have and has drawn the same conclusion as you did, and is making his point to the fourth official once again.
Yeah, if there's no contact on Wilson, if Leif just lets him go, which he should do,
he's probably going to head for goal and work the goalkeeper at least.
I think so, yeah.
So is it a clear goal-scoring opportunity? Yes, it probably is.
Well, yeah.
Wilson and Lukic over this, very central. 35 yards from goal. All the big units are sent forward, and here's the clip delivery by Lukic towards Anderson, who heads it towards goal, and it's snatched out of the air by Walton relatively comfortably.
Yeah, well worked. It was designed, Diop taking a player away, Anderson to get the header, but he's just directed it towards the goalkeeper, and what he needs to do is direct it middle of the 6, about 7 or 8 yards out, but into the middle of the 6-yard box for someone else to come on and attack centrally. And he just got it wrong angle off his forehead and into the keeper's hands. But I quite like the design of that free kick.
Well, this goal kick by Christian Walton goes straight out of play for a throw into Fulham inside their own half of the field. More diary notices for you. Tuesday, the London Women's Football Show returns for 20:25 from 6. If you don't catch it at the time, you can download it as a podcast or a downloadable listen again radio programme from the BBC Sounds app once the programme's finished. Then on Wednesday evening we are live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham against Liverpool in the League Cup semi-final first leg. All the build-up from 6, commentary on digital from 8. Then on Thursday evening we've got commentary of Fulham against Watford in the FA Cup third round. Friday night it's Aston Villa. You might need to write these down. Friday night Aston Villa against West Ham. On Saturday we've got Leicester against Queen's Park Rangers, among others. So an awful lot of football to look forward to this week. All brought to you with our regular programmes from 6 p.m. on the radio as well. And don't forget Aaron Paul at breakfast from 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Here is Issa Diop. If you were wondering whether there were going to be any missives released by Stockley Park on the subject of a couple of the more contentious decisions that we've seen so far today, the answer is there have not been any, but of course if they do appear on social media we will read them out and quite possibly laugh at them. Here's Wilson trying to break forward and then has Jimenez caught Greaves there. The referee isn't interested. It's a throw-in to Ipswich on the halfway line.
Yeah, Wilson's just got to be careful. You know, he's had a pop at the referee when he got fouled just moments ago by Davis, and he's having a pop at the assistant on that far side, and he's getting a little bit aggressive in terms of the way his body language is. Just needs to calm down a little.
It's been a frustrating half hour, hasn't it, really, from a Fulham perspective? All this possession, but one chance, really.
They're used to this, though. I've got to be brutally frank. This has been my last 3 viewings of Fulham, and I love coming to the Cottage, and I like watching Fulham. They're an excellent technical team with, a super build-up play, but chances have been few and far between the games I've watched recently, and it's not Fulham's fault. It's just how teams play against them. It's very difficult to break down.
Kearney drills this into the Ipswich box. It's cleared away as far as Diop, who heads it powerfully into the feet of Wolfenden, who gets himself out of trouble because Raul Jimenez was sniffing around the edge of the Ipswich box. It goes back to Christian Walton, who left-footed, clips this forward. Delap springs in the air and brings it down and offloads to Broadhead. Ipswich in possession, remarkably. Here's Broadhead again, centre of the field, goes down under a challenge from Lukic. Free kick inside the centre circle.
Yeah, I think the first ball up, when you're Diop and you're Anderson, you're just responsible for Delap. That first ball up has to be challenged. You can't take a first touch, a second, bring in a midfield player, because then you're just going to end up backpedaling to your 18-yard box. And they just must have switched off just for a little bit. Got caught on their heels, because one of them should definitely be challenging Delap. We found it difficult to get into the game, actually, after the first 5 minutes. That's been the dominance of Fulham's possession, but Schmodix and Broadhead same.
Now the free kick for Ipswich from halfway is nodded out of play. Leif Davis again the target, and it comes off a Fulham player for Ipswich's first corner of the contest, with 13 minutes to go to half time. Down their left hand side, Sammy Schmodix is going to take it. Oh, here we are, we're getting some information from Stockley Park. Now the referee's call of a yellow card for the challenge by Davis on Wilson was checked and confirmed by VAR, who deemed that this was not the denial of a goal scoring opportunity.
It was a tough one to decipher, and probably right.
Here's the corner, swung in towards the near post. Not a very good corner by Sammy Schmodix, headed away by Lukic, out for a Fulham throw.
Yeah, I think when you're spending this much time out of possession and deep in your own half, you have to make sure that these set pieces get into an area.
That was Lane, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You've just got to clear that first man, and I know you hear that a lot from summarisers, but when you're out of possession this much, and opportunities to put balls into the box are few and far between, you've got to give the centre halves and players a chance to get on the end.
Kajus's throw is flicked on by O'Shea and then cleared away as far as Kajus again. Low cross this time, cleared away by Anderson. Finds Wilson. Here come Fulham to the middle of the field. Wilson's going to try and guide it into the feet of Jimenez, but it's cut out by a reversing Dara O'Shea, who was hurtling back into his own half of the field, and then Ipswich give the ball away on halfway, and Tom Kearney steers it out wide to Anthony Robinson. The pattern of this game has not changed from minute 1 to minute 34. Ipswich in possession sparingly, Fulham with more possession than they know what to do with, but no goals for either side as yet.
Yeah, I mean they have the odd foray, don't they?
Odd.
Yeah, and it really is 2 or 3. It's the pattern of the game. The game needs a Fulham goal, really, is what it needs, because if Ipswich score, they'll just do it even more. Yes. Whereas if Fulham score, Ipswich will have to come out a little bit, but that's where we're sat. We can only commentate and summarise on what we see, and they're trying everything they can. They're just not making that final link up, Fulham.
Lukic makes a dash forward for Fulham, cleared away by O'Shea, out for a throw-in on that far side of the field. Castagna's going to take it. We're about to enter the last 10 minutes of this first half. One real chance for Fulham, that Raul Jimenez header that was saved by Christian Walton. Other than that, they have huffed and puffed, but not yet blown Ipswich's house down. This ball looks for Robinson on the left-hand side, finds him just, combines with Calvin Bassey. A huge bank of pink shirts as they play through it eventually, and here's Robinson, whose cross is cleared away by Ben Johnson in front of his goalkeeper. It looked for all the world as though Robinson had found a way through, and now the referee spotted an infringement, and it's a free kick to Ipswich, and a lot of high fives and praise for the Ipswich backline amongst themselves for dealing with that. He was caught, Robinson, just after he cleared it by Harry Wilson. But yeah, as I said, it looked as though Fulham had finally worked out how to play through Ipswich, but no.
It was a wonderful little move, actually. Good link up between Robinson and Iwobi, and once Robinson's in full flight and gets played in off your shoulder, he is very, very difficult to defend pace-wise. I was just wondering for a moment, could he got the left foot shot in towards Walton's left-hand post, and seeing the replay, Walton just shuts that down quite nicely. He did only have the cutback really as an option.
Broadhead collects it on halfway for Ipswich, goes past 2 defenders. He's done really well initially, he's desperate to hold it up, and he's managed to hold it up, and he's fed Leif Davis down the left-hand side. And it's cut. Oh, he's tried to cut it back for Delap, but it only finds Lukic, and then Delap gets a block in for the clearance downfield, and it's a Fulham throw. Well, again, if you blink, you miss them, but Ipswich do have these occasional attacks.
Yeah, they do, and it is Broadhead or Delap in the main, and I thought Anderson was going to get pulled up for a free kick there, and I think Ipswich probably would have benefited more from that, but they just panicked. Leif Davis said, just rushing that cross. I thought he could have taken his time, but they almost seemed panicked to do stuff.
Yeah, because they know
absolutely.
They know they're not going to see it again for a little while.
Yeah, and it was rushed, and the pass was poor.
bizarre, really, that this is the situation they find themselves in, but there we are. Here's Morsey, and he gets it out wide to Davies on that left-hand side, level with the edge of the Fulham penalty area. Ipswich with what I think we have to class as almost a little spell of possession. I mean, they've had it for about 20 to 25 seconds.
No, they have, yeah. No, they have. But they the first 10 minutes they had a couple like this where they kept good possession. They did, and then it just hasn't materialised from that spot.
Play forward for Delap, shoulder to shoulder with Anderson inside the penalty area now. Gets some help on that side of the field from Davis. He hasn't got much other support. Now Broadhead arrives, corner of the box. Little dinked in cross. Johnson tries to go for it. Hits the bar. Scramble clear. And here's Smodic. It's in. Ipswich have scored. The first effort from Johnson came off the crossbar. And then Fulham's players did not react. Smodic did. Fired it home. And after all the possession, all of the dominance the Cottagers have had in the opening 37 minutes, it's Ipswich who strike first. And it's Fulham 0, Ipswich 1.
Yeah. I think that's all about the delivery, isn't it? I don't know what more Robinson could have done. He got caught underneath the ball. He's only about 3 yards out when he's making the challenge, and Johnson just pressurises him from behind, squeezing. This is what I was saying about Diop earlier. Could he have been more physical? Johnson, in fact, I think it's Robinson actually who heads it against the bar. That's how much pressure he's under. When the shot comes back in from the rebound from Smodic, it's actually straight at Leno. Could he have done better? It's a really poor clearance from Bassi as well. It's deflected off a back.
Yeah,
There's so much we've missed in real time in that goal.
It's frantic, wasn't it?
It's incredible what's happened actually. You've got a deflection off it's a really terrible clearance from Bassi, then a deflection off of Bassi past Leno into the Fulham net. It's a bit of a catastrophe from a Fulham perspective, but Ipswich lead.
It's a comedy of errors, isn't it, really? Cross comes in. Johnson and Robinson jump for it. It might have come off Robinson last. It comes back off the crossbar with Leno sprawled on the ground. Bassi then tries to hook it clear. Makes a dreadful mess of it. That's a foul by Broadhead on Kearney and a yellow card for Nathan Broadhead. And then, Smodic has got a lot of bodies in the way. Quite a lot of them are on the ground. And Bassi, who's kind of swinging in fresh air, he drives it, Smodic, and it smacks off Bassi again. And the ball ends up in the net. Bizarre, really bizarre. 6 minutes to go to half time. Ipswich lead 1-0.
Yeah, you have to say the cross was superb though. You know, and
Broadhead, it was
absolutely
teasing.
Leno sort of didn't want to come. He thought, if I come and I don't get near this, it's going to be headed into the back of an empty net, so I'll stay. Robinson wanted Leno to deal with it, and then sort of put his head down last minute, and I'm pretty convinced it hit Robinson. Cannoned off the crossbar, but Bassi showed no composure whatsoever on the clearance. He wasn't under any pressure, Nick, to be brutally frank.
No, there was a lot wrong from a defensive point of view. Here's a free kick for Fulham. Lukic into the box, headed away by Johnson. Kajus comes out to this near side. He's going to clip it down the channel. A foot race here with Anthony Robinson. It's a good foot race as well, which Robinson wins. They were flying down that flank, those two.
He made it a lot closer than I thought it'd be, because Robinson is electrically quick.
Well, Kajus an athlete, and all of a sudden Anthony Robinson looked over his shoulder and went, I'm actually going to have to pick this up a little bit.
Yeah, because, afterburners on.
Yeah, and he won the race. But, well, Steve Brown said it, Ipswich have been very unadventurous so far in this opening half, and now they've gone in front. The chances of them leaving their own third of the field even more remote. I don't know if you can get minus XG or not. I don't even know what that means, really.
I mean, this is mirroring the Brentford game. Very, very similar. Very, very similar. Where Brentford took the lead. That was a wonder strike on the night, and it took two very, very late goals. But I just wonder if this is a performance where you need someone like Smith Rowe popping up in tiny little areas who can take a very quick first touch, turn on that touch, and look up and have the vision to execute a pass down the side of centre halves. But it's side to side from Fulham. It's comfortable for Ipswich behind the ball, but they need to somehow get down the sides of players and in between units. Difficult to do when you look at a team that's only got 12 yards from its deepest player to its furthest player forward.
3 minutes to go to half time. Ipswich lead 1-0. Here's Kearney for Fulham. They're unbeaten in 7. Fulham coming into this game. as Iwobi on the corner of the box twists one way, then the other, manages to offload to Wilson, who shoots, blocked by Wolfenden, comes out to Anderson on the lip of the centre circle. Here come Fulham again. It's with Robinson on the left. His high, hanging rather hopeful cross looks for Castagna, who heads it into the 6-yard box. Ipswich clear through Greaves and Wolfenden, or a combination of the two. Then Johnson heads it away as far as Jimenez, who shoots from the edge of the D, blocked by Kazust, comes out to Diop. It's just getting deeper and deeper, trying to protect this 1-0 lead. They have not won back-to-back Premier League games, Ipswich, since January of 2002. Would you like to guess one of the teams they beat in that spell? They play in black and white, and they play down by the river. Here's Iwobi coming forward. Goes wide to Diop on the right-hand side, deep inside Ipswich territory. A hush around Craven Cottage almost, as Fulham try and work their way through this bank of pink shirts. Wide to Castagna on the right, level with the edge of the Ipswich penalty area. Back to Wilson. Here's the cross towards the far post, headed behind by Ben Johnson. It's going to be a Fulham corner, their third of the game, with 2 minutes of the first 45 to go.
Yeah, and I think I said the same from Brentford. They do defend inside the width of the goal mouth very, very well. Those three centre halves stay relatively compact, so the crosses have to go outside of them to put the wing backs under the pressure for Ipswich. And on this occasion, Johnson dealt with that quite nicely. But yeah, they're just going side to side a lot. They're trying to penetrate down the middle, but it comes back out and then across the pitch to a wide player. So a realistic way of scoring is from across into that box, but they're not winning too many headers either.
Lukic's corner, headed away by O'Shea, who then goes and charges out to try and get hold of the ball. Fulham have it again with Iwobi on the right. Corner of the box, offloads to Kearney, back to Iwobi on that right side to the touchline. Here's the cross, looks for Jimenez, he can't get hold of it. Wilson on the volley into a forest of bodies and behind for a corner. That could have gone anywhere as he fired it into the mix around the penalty spot. It is Fulham's second corner in relatively quick succession, trailing 1-0.
Yeah, and we've just got a minute plus add-ons to go. I really feel like the game needs Fulham to get on level terms before we go down the tunnel.
This corner's played short to Kearney, edge of the box, back to Wilson. Kearney again, he's got space here with his left foot. He shoots, but in flies Sammy Smodic to get the block in. He's been credited with the goal, by the way. It did take an almighty deflection off Calvin Bassey, but he's been given the goal. Long ball forward by Robinson, aimless cross really, and Walton drops on the ball. Ipswich are going to try and limp to half-time, but they lead 1-0 thanks to the goal about 7 minutes ago. And Fulham, despite all that possession, have come up with nothing.
Absolutely, but if you're Kieran McKenna, you'll love nothing better than seeing one of your forward players coming out and making a block like that, because Kearney on his left foot, ball at dead weight, fancy him to at least hit the target and test Walton. Super block from Smodic, very brave.
Fulham coming forward again. We're about to find out how long will be added on at the end of this first half. There won't be much time. We haven't had, other than Lukic in the first moments, we haven't had too many stoppages. Here's Robinson. We're going to have 1 minute, according to the fourth official on that far side, and we're playing that minute now. It is Fulham 0, Ipswich 1. Leif Davis powering over the halfway line, wants to take on Castagna and gets the better of him, and he crosses early looking for Delap. He just can't get on the end of it, and it's hooked away by Robinson, only as far as Johnson. Ipswich ending the half, if not strongly, then certainly wanting to keep the ball away from their goal as much as possible. Here's O'Shea in a right wing position momentarily, and then Smodic has sent this into Morsey. I don't think they're really worried about carving out a chance, Ipswich here. They just don't want to give the ball away high up the pitch and allow Fulham to counter in the remaining moments of the contest. Down the right it goes from Johnson, looking for Smodic. Bassey deals with it, and then Lukic will try and launch another attack. But there are 5 seconds of the minute of added on time to go, and that is half-time, and it's a half-time score that will surprise a few, especially given the statistics that have shown how much Fulham have dominated. But despite 70-80% of the possession, they created one chance, that Raul Jimenez header that was saved by Christian Walton. Ipswich are restricted to occasional forays into the Fulham half of the field, but on one of those occasional forays they took the chance. It was Nathan Broadhead's cross on the left, which Anthony Robinson may well have headed against his own crossbar. Calvin Bassey then made a dreadful mess of the clearance. It dropped to Sammy Smodits, who drove the ball between the posts, and it smacked off Bassey and went into the net. All rather chaotic, but this 7-match unbeaten run under Marco Silva for Fulham, their best in the top flight, is in jeopardy. Their best under Silva as well. As I said, it's in jeopardy at the moment because Ipswich have a slender lead at the break. They lead Fulham at half-time by 1-0.
BBC Radio London.
The home of London football.
Premier League football on a Sunday afternoon on the banks of the Thames here on BBC Radio London. Nick Godwin and Steve Branyard commentary team. Phil Parry alongside them here in our cosy commentary position. I think it's fair to say, Brown Dog. Well, you know, if Fulham need any sort of consolation, Brentford led at half-time in a game which had a very similar pattern to that first half. Brentford, throughout a lot of the game, sat deep, tried to spring attacks, got themselves a wonder goal through Vitaliano, if I remember, on that particular occasion, even when he'd been told not to hit it from outside the penalty area on his left peg. So this game's got a long way to go. If Ipswich continue to play the way they're playing, Fulham will have to back themselves. They're going to break them down. Yeah, well, listen, they're going to remain calm in that dressing room because they've been here before. They've seen this before. Southampton did the same, Brentford did the same, and Ipswich are trying to do the same. The important bit for Ipswich is they've got that goal lead. Sadly for us, that means they're going to protect that box even more. And I do think you'll probably see 1 or 2 changes off that Fulham bench, not immediately, but relatively quickly, sort of 65 minutes or so. If they haven't broken Ipswich down, they're going to have to try something different, because unfortunately in games you do get yourself in a pattern where you've been coached all week to play a certain way, and sometimes when the opposition gets that goal, it's hard to get out that way. And Ipswich do have, it seems to me, Fulham covered off to a degree in what's been thrown at them. But then so did Brentford. And it was that rut of changes actually late on in the game that changed things, particularly the Harry Wilson one on that night. But yeah, we might have to wait and see a little change of tactics or a little change of personnel for the pattern of the game to change. But yeah, the worst thing this game needed for me was an Ipswich goal. I could have really loved to have seen a Fulham goal and Ipswich then come out and have to get an equaliser, but that's not the case. So I think we've got another 45 minutes of dogged, determined defending from Ipswich Town. Can Fulham find a way to get on level terms? If they do, it's like I said against Brentford. I think that the pendulum will swing massively and Ipswich will be on the back foot, and you would fancy Fulham to go on and win it. But I'll go 1-0 Ipswich or Fulham to win. That key moment some will look at. Marco Silva may want to look at the video. PGMO have looked at it, and they put on the board why there wasn't a red card as Harry Wilson was darting through. He is lightning Harry Wilson, but the assessment was it wasn't denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity. Again, I don't know. Is it because players are getting back? Because we saw Arsenal have a player sent off virtually on the halfway line for denying a goal scoring opportunity. Harry Wilson was much closer in on goal, and even if covering defenders were coming, for me, that was a better goal scoring opportunity than what I saw Arsenal having been reduced to 10 earlier this season. But we don't know anymore. I mean, it's very difficult to work out what is and isn't handball, for example. Well, the inconsistencies are what allow us to have the conversations we have to have, because 1 week you go that I can see why he's given that, but then the following week they do something completely different that would make the one the previous week an actual not a sending off. Now when you see the replay, and you have to remember the referee is in real time, he has a split second to see everything materialising, and you can understand perhaps why in real time he thought it's a yellow, because there was an Ipswich player recovering, but then when you see the replay, it's quite a way over. You're talking about over 12-15 yards maybe across the pitch. Is he going to make that ground up if Wilson avoids that challenge? It's questionable. But once he gives the yellow, and this is where I think VAR is starting to learn, you do have to go with the ref. It wasn't clear and obvious enough to me to then overturn it. But by the same token, if he does decide it's a red, I don't think you can make him overturn that either. So it was just in the referee's decision in that moment. And a couple of things, Steve. Yesterday, Tommy Tuchel, in his first day in the office, or at the office, was busy. He turned up at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to see one player, I think, because very few England players were playing. James Maddison came off the bench. He's not been an England player lately. He then went down to Brighton against Arsenal to see one. Well, actually, no. Ethan Nwaneri, who went off injured at half-time, is a real prospect for the future. But he went to see Declan Rice. Today, in the Ipswich lineup, he could be watching too. Leif Davis and Liam Delap.
Yeah, Delap's got a little bit about him, hasn't he? You know, and he's getting a lot of praise. Quite rightly so. He's in a side. Look, if he's scoring those goals and assists in this side, what we've just witnessed there, you know, that's a tough ask. But he's got physicality. Yeah. He pressurises. He chases lost causes. He can hold the ball up. He looks like he's got a little turn of pace. And Leif Davis doesn't need asking twice to get forward. It's just such a shame that he has to spend the majority of his time, you know, sat in a back five on the edge of his box. But I think he has shown very fleeting moments in this game what he can do when he's on the front foot. He's got a wonderful turn of pace down that left hand side and a wicked delivery at the end of it. There was one moment where I thought he should have shown a little bit more composure, but such was sort of like the desperation of Ipswich wanting to try and get a shot away or create something because they were hardly in their final third. He just rushed the pass and it got intercepted. But yeah, both those players, I think, are giving themselves a very good opportunity to get at least into a squad and be around the England setup. You know, if they perform like this in a side that's struggling, they've both got assets, in my opinion, that would appeal to an England manager.
Yeah, although his tenure is pretty short, the contract that he signed, isn't it, to begin with, and it's like, you know, he's going to set his standard as qualifying for the World Cup, and that's going to be the key for him. But yeah, they've both got those opportunities maybe to put themselves in front of him. I don't know if he's here, Tommy Tuchel.
No idea.
I haven't seen him,
but he
might be in the swimming pool on the far side.
Yeah.
But a little plunge.
You can start with a much larger squad and filter it down, but I think it's important you get players like that around the England squad. You can always cut it down a little bit.
Let's face it, he's at Anfield, isn't he? That's where he is today.
You would have thought so.
You've got to get there. Easier said than done, apparently.
Helicopter. Maybe, I don't know. Does England manager travel around by helicopter? Les Ferdinand Tours, I think he could get Les involved in that and get him helicoptered up there. Right, let's head up to Gresty Road, shall we? It's not ice cream van day, Charlotte Richardson. It's hot chocolate day, isn't it, ahead of this one? Crewe against Bromley.
It certainly is, Phil. I have enjoyed a delicious hot chocolate. I'm warmed up, I'm ready to go, as Bromley are the ones looking to turn up the heat on the playoff chasing pack. They faced Crewe at a very, very chilly Mornflake Stadium. They're 12 games unbeaten, 3 wins in their last 5. The manager, Andy Woodman, has made just one change, bringing in defender Callum Reynolds. He's back in the starting 11. The hosts haven't lost here since August. It's a really tough place to come, but the Ravens, they're on an upward trajectory in League 2, and should they win this afternoon, they'd be just 2 points off the playoff pack. So it's a really important afternoon for Bromley.
It certainly is, isn't it? And I mean, I don't know what the conditions are like in South Cheshire. I've just seen pictures of Liverpool and the snow around Anfield, and Anfield itself is fine. And obviously, we lost Fleetwood against AFC Wimbledon because of the weather conditions. Is that going to have an effect today at all on this game, the weather that you've got up there?
Well, it's remarkable, really. It's grey, it's drab, but there is no sign of any snow either on the pitch or the surrounding areas. We have a glorious position up here. I mean, it was quite an exercise of fitness to get up the number of flights of stairs that I have.
Yeah,
but
it's amazing.
The view is incredible, and it just looks like heavy drizzle. So there's no sort of complaints in terms of the conditions. The pitch looks fine. It looks like a League 2 pitch at this stage of the season. And for Bromley, I think, well, manager Andy Woodman, he's always a no excuse culture. This is very much the kind of game that they will relish rolling their sleeves up and picking up another 3 points against a tough side in League 2.
Yeah, certainly. You can see your train coming from the distance there in the back of that stand, can't you? You'll know when it's coming. Charlotte, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of that hot chocolate. 5 minutes to go to kick off in that one at Gresty Road. Bromley taking on Crewe Alexandra this afternoon. Rufus Brevitt has been brought out for the Forever Fulham inauguration for him. Here, big hugs. He's a favourite at many London football clubs, is Rufus Brevitt. QPR, West Ham United, here at Fulham as well. He's not a favourite if you had to play against him, because he was a gnarly defender, was Roof.
Well, I have been on the end of one of his gnarly challenges. I was at QPR and got stretchered off with a lovely cut down my shin that required about 9 stitches. So Thanks for that, Rufus. I've still got the scar.
Do you want to go and have a word whilst we...
No, part and parcel of the game. Yeah, the bit that angst me more than the challenge was the referee saying there was no contact and there's blood spurting out of my shin. Yeah, and I had to go off and have 9 stitches. No contact.
Alive. Man alive. Right, 4:30 it is on at Anfield this afternoon. I mean, this used to be a massive rivalry, didn't it, in many respects? Manchester United and Liverpool, the M62 derby, the two clubs really going at it. Let's face it, today everyone's predicting a huge Liverpool win, but let's just tease ourselves and get ourselves excited about what's to come in the Northwest this afternoon.
Of course, I know Liverpool is a club that is always playing for every trophy.
Salah's there again, and he side foots it in. So easy for Liverpool, and the leaders are having a field day.
The pressure of being leaders this early by that scale is a different type of pressure, and it's one they'll have to see if the rest of the squad can handle.
And it's in from Jones. Curtis Jones puts Liverpool in front.
Jota, and Jota scores and makes it 5-0.
They are brushing teams away. Looking around Europe, you would make them not just favourites to win the Premier League, but you'd make them favourites to win the Champions League as well.
We have to change something. This season it will be really hard on everybody.
Semenyo 3-0! What is happening at Old Trafford? Bournemouth are ripping Manchester United apart.
I just think with Amorim, he needs so much patience. I don't think this is a quick fix.
And Cunha tees it up. It's 2-0. Hwang Hee-chan with his first goal of the season. And what a lot of work Manchester United have got to do.
This philosophy right now is not going to work, and I just can't see it getting any better right now because the players are definitely losing confidence.
Gordon's cross, Joe Linton's header, and it's 2-0 Newcastle United. Manchester United all over the shop.
In football, one game, anything can happen.
They are much, much, much better than the league table shows at the moment.
Well, you'd have to say, Steve Brown, that if Liverpool win today, looking at points being dropped by Chelsea and Arsenal again yesterday, that, I mean, you don't necessarily call it, but it's getting close to being called. They still have a game in hand against Everton. Liverpool would have an 8-point gap to Arsenal. They'd have an 11-point gap to Nottingham Forest, a 12-point gap to Chelsea. It's theirs to lose if they beat Man United, and all the expectations would be that they will beat Manchester United, who are at the moment looking over their shoulders because the relegation spots are only 6 points below them with this scoreline here at the moment.
Yeah, and look at the L's in the form column. 5 games, 4 losses for Manchester United. They really are up against it, and it actually would be a major upset if they won the game. You're looking at it where it was those sort of fixtures used to go either way. You didn't quite know, and sometimes they cancel each other out, and sometimes they turn into brilliant games. But you can't see anything other than Liverpool win today. No. You really can't. And the league kind of needs Manchester United to win, because it does become almost a runaway lead for Liverpool at the halfway stage, which was unthinkable at the start of the season. I don't think anybody would have predicted that.
Gents, just to say, Mark, you were talking about Marcus there having a row. He's having a massive row with the referee in the mouth of the tunnel right now, live on the radio.
Yeah, I wonder if that's about the Harry Wilson foul and the yellow card. It's got to be, isn't it?
He keeps pointing the huge gap, the shrinking gap, I assume, between the goal and where the challenge was made.
I do refer you back to Arsenal having a sending off virtually just inside, was it Bournemouth, wasn't it, earlier this season, just inside the opposition half when William Saliba was adjudged to have pulled back a Bournemouth striker. There was a long way to go. The ball was actually heading out towards the sideline rather than towards the goal, and yet that was pulled back and a red card produced. That looked more like a goal scoring opportunity, but there you go. Teams are back out. Had a change, Nick, for the start of the second half of Fulham.
Yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe is going to come on for Fulham, which Steve Brown, you were convinced that was going to happen, weren't you? You said he won't wait, he'll get him on at the break.
Well, I wouldn't have necessarily said it was coming at half time, but it was the game's crying out for somebody of that ilk to just, like, he can take a touch on the back foot, turn, and he has the ability to get his head up and play a little slide rule pass out of nothing, and that's exactly what I think Fulham need, particularly what they're up against Ipswich. So I'm not surprised that he's coming on, but I am surprised at the timing of it.
He's come on for Issa Diop, so that means the formation switch around for the Cottagers. It looks like the back three has been turned into a back four, but we'll have to see exactly where Smith Rowe operates, and we're going to get the second half underway very shortly. But that's the big change in this second half, with the manager Marco Silva not content to send that team out again for the second 45 minutes, because Ipswich lead by a goal to nil as the second period gets underway. Fulham dominated that first 45 minutes but didn't score. Ipswich had the odd attack and managed to take the lead through Sammy Smodix. We're back underway. There are no changes for Ipswich, who are coming forward with Kajus, and he's into the penalty area and he tries to turn it across the 6-yard box, but he can't find Smodix, and it's cleared away as far as Wolfenden, who nods the ball away from danger. And Castagna is going to roll it all the way back to Bernd Leno. So I think we can confirm that there has been a change in formation. Fulham do go to a back four, so Leno in goal, back four of Castagna, Anderson, Bassi and Robinson. In midfield, Lukic and Kearney is Smith Rowe going to kind of play in a 10 position with Iwobi and Wilson wide and Jimenez further forward? That would be one of the ways of doing it, but they haven't settled down into a proper pattern yet. I'll do Ipswich for you. Walton in goal, back three of Wolfenden, O'Shea and Greaves, with Johnson and Davis wide, Morsi and Kajus in the middle, Smodic and Broadhead supporting Delap. On the bench for Fulham, Bender, Cuenca, Godot, Pereira, King, Muniz, Sessegnon and Traore. And for Ipswich, who have conceded a throw-in deep inside Fulham territory, Al-Hamadi, Burgess, Burns, Clark, and then another Clark, Harry and Jack, Muric, Phillips, Taylor and Townsend. Steve Brown's alongside us for commentary. Smith Rowe going to play in that number 10 role, would you say?
It does look that way. You've got Iwobi sort of front left, you've got Wilson front right, but I think Iwobi's given the licence to tuck inside and join Jimenez, allowing Robinson to get high up the pitch, whereas I think Castagna might stay at home a little bit more with Wilson in front. But it's modern day football, Nick. I don't think he's even going to stick to that. I think that at times it looks like Iwobi and Smith Rowe are inverted and behind Jimenez, so they can do multiple things, I think, but they need to get hold of the ball first and foremost.
Broadhead coming forward for Ipswich, who lead 1-0 on BBC Radio London. Play back to Kajus. The rain has got considerably worse as this second half gets underway. It's falling heavily on the Craven Cottage surface as Leif Davis sends it low into the box, and it almost drops to Smodic unchallenged. As he gets ready to shoot, Bassi makes an important intervention. Bassi hobbles away from the challenge, but he did disrupt Smodic's ability to shoot on goal. Another half chance for Ipswich, still 1-0.
Yeah, but Ipswich started the second half in a real positive fashion. The change haven't quite got hold of the change yet, Fulham, and it's given Ipswich a little window of opportunity here. They're keeping possession well, they're playing in the Fulham half, and Fulham don't look as sure of themselves as they did in that first 45 minutes, but they'll settle into it. You know, it's quite a big change. You've gone from a back three, which you've probably worked on, ever since the last game, back to the training ground, working on a back three, how you can manipulate the Ipswich town, and you've had to change that at half time and try something you probably haven't worked on for this game. However, you've been forced into it. So they'll settle into this, I'm sure, in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But for now, Ipswich just having a little bit of joy, possession-wise and territorial-wise.
Now there was a pause whilst Bassi and Smodic just recovered themselves. I think they're both still suffering from that collision inside the Fulham box, where Bassi had to stop Smodic from getting a decent chance to shoot.
It was just enough pressure, wasn't it, to take his eye off the ball and then miss the actual top. I'd say Ipswich have come out with a lot more. I said to you, didn't I, first half, they're not getting close enough to the opponent, they're not putting the opponent under pressure, crosses are coming too easy. I've seen 2 challenges back to back, one on Kearney, one on Robinson, where there's a bit more aggression, a little bit more steel, in the speed that they're pressurising and the physicality that they're getting on top of their opponents.
Yeah, Morsey and Kearney had a few words, I think it's fair to say, but that seems to have settled down. Here's Castagna on the halfway line. Ipswich coming forward increasingly in this start section of the second half, more than they did in the first, to be honest with you. But now Fulham are back in possession and back on the march. Kearney's going to try and funnel this forward down the left for Robinson, who scampered into the Ipswich penalty area. Johnson comes across, just shepherds the ball out of play. Fulham throw. Kearney has it at his feet, corner of the box. He's got Iwobi on that flank, trying to find a yard of space. Comes back to Kearney. They're getting a bit gummed up on that left-hand side, are Fulham, but they want runners in the box. One of them is Lukic, and this might find Lukic, but Kajust comes across and clears the danger for Ipswich over the halfway line. Delap thundering after it, but it goes out for a throw-in. Bassi takes quickly, and Joachim Anderson will bring under his spell inside his own half of the field. It is Fulham 0, Ipswich 1. Sami Simonic's goal in the first half separating these two sides. And here is Sasa Lukic just inside Fulham territory. Those pink-shirted Ipswich players have trudged back into their own half of the field. There's an awful lot of them between the ball and the goal from Fulham's perspective, but Tom Kearney is going to try and thread a pass here, goes square to Lukic, offloads to Castagna, who's got forward down that right side. Fulham playing a back four now. Castagna again on the right flank into Lukic. It's all Fulham, and Ipswich are playing deeper and deeper and deeper. But other than that, Jimenez header that was saved by Walton in the first half, not much to say. Here's Kearney, edge of the box, tries to play that forward for Iwobi, but he can't quite get on the end of the cross. Ipswich can't get out though. Bassi has it on that left-hand side. The rain tumbling down, the sky's darkening. It's been a mild but very wet day in this part of town, and Fulham are on the attack. It's been given away needlessly by Kazuz, who just clips it to halfway. Anywhere will do to ease the pressure on that Ipswich goal. It's not as though they're not used to the pressure though. Fulham have been doing this for over 50 minutes of this contest. Wide it goes to Bassi on that left-hand side. Steve Brown, it's the pattern's been re-established.
It's exactly. Yeah, I said give them a couple of minutes to settle into the changes, and they have. The Kearney run is the sort of run you need. You know, catching the opponent by surprise, off his shoulder, in between the lines and in behind the Ipswich.
Yeah, Robinson tries to get round O'Shea, who goes to ground and puts it behind. Fulham's first corner of this second half, their fifth of the game.
Yeah, it's really difficult to do because of the deepness of that back line of Ipswich, but you have got to try and get down the sides. However intricate that may be in terms of time of the run and pass, that's kind of the only way I can see him unlocking.
Here's the corner. Wilson takes it, headed away by Broadhead for Ipswich. Rose well, gets good distance on the header. Wilson charges back along the touchline to keep it in play. Here's Emile Smith-Rowe on as a sub, down that left flank, running at Ben Johnson, cuts in field. That's a dangerous cross, but it's too close to Walton, who grabs it. Seems to elude Calvin Bassi, who got forward.
Yeah, the only one that was on the move. Yeah. And that was the issue with that. So he's cut back on his right, Smith-Rowe, and he delivers a decent ball, but everyone flat-footed. Bassi the only one on the move.
Broadhead down the left, does well to collect this for Ipswich, and finds Lee Davis. Has Davis run this out of play? No. That will eventually cannon off Davis and go out for a goal kick, which Leno's going to take away to our right-hand side, and it's played short for Calvin Bassi. Fulham going to try and play their way out of the Ipswich press, which is vigorous, sustained, but unsuccessful because Lukic has it down the right. Broadhead tries to pen him in, and then Kearney turns away from Delap, and Fulham are easing the ball forward. It's with Anderson, who looks for the run down the left of Robinson, and Walton comes to the edge of his box and claims. There are a few suggestions that he took the ball out of the penalty area, a long way from us, but I doubt it.
Yeah, it's good goalkeeping actually, because I don't mind that ball. Robinson's got the pace to penetrate in behind his opposite number. But that, I mean, you look at Walton there, he's 16 yards out and coming forward, so when he takes a claim, he's got to abruptly stop. But it's good goalkeeping, just takes the pressure off your defence.
Here come Ipswich down the left. Leif Davis has a lot of space to run into, and he's got Delap waiting for this. It goes over the head of Anderson. Delap can't get the shot away though, and then it's picked up again by Johnson. It runs away from him, and Lukic will clear. Awful lot of space for Leif Davis to use down that left-hand side.
The crossfield ball is one of the best balls of the game, to be honest. It was from Johnson. It was a wonderful diagonal, allowing Davis to break down left, and the cross was actually brilliant. Delap just couldn't match it with a good first touch.
Yeah, the ball just eluded Anderson. You could see him stretching every sinew, but he couldn't get a hold of it. It went over his head. Delap was unable to fasten onto the delivery. Still 1-0 Ipswich lead. Here's Sasa Lukic moving forward in the colours of Fulham. Offloads to Castagna and wide to Wilson on that right flank. Scampers infield. Little teasing cross. Looks for Jimenez. Headed away by Wolfenden rather. And runs out for what it will almost in slow motion be a goal kick to Ipswich. Ben Johnson just waited for the ball to crawl over the byline. Still Ipswich leading 1-0, and Raul Jimenez is shaking his head.
Yeah, I think they're frustrating Fulham, and they're getting more and more frustrated. One or two players just creeping into that body language and suggesting you know, we need something different. They keep beating the same tune on that drum, and Ipswich are dealing with pretty much everything that's being thrown at them at the moment. Not stretched either. That's the important bit. They're not being stretched at all. They just look comfortable behind the ball.
They do look quite comfortable, Ipswich, and it hasn't always been the case in this game. But at the moment, they are very much happy with their 1-0 lead. That's a shirt time by Lukic on the halfway line on Broadhead.
Yeah, and that one's inexcusable because I think Fulham would have got the turnover regardless. So you've given away a very needless free kick. Again, more frustration.
Yeah, this has been sliced out of play by Greaves. Again, looking to try and get Leif Davis away down that left-hand side. We've now got two balls on the pitch. We haven't actually. Timothy Castagna's done a good job of just passing the other one away, having taken the throw in. Castagna, like the rest of the Fulham team, want to get on with this. They don't want any needless delays or disruption. Bassi striding over the halfway line in Fulham colours down their left-hand side. He's going to... Well, I think he was hoping to release Robinson on that flank, but he's moved in field for Smith Rowe. Exchanges passes with Iwobi. Offloads to Lukic, wide to Castagna on the right. Smith Rowe out wide to Wilson on the flank, back into the feet of Castagna. Square for Kearney now, just outside the penalty area. Gets closed down very quickly. No real chance for him to get a shot away. It's out to the left, and Robinson. That's a better cross. It's flicked away by Greaves. He knew he had Wilson behind him, and it goes out for a corner to Fulham down their right.
Yeah, just cut back onto his right foot, Robinson, and delivered a lovely flighty ball, middle of six. Greaves with a really important touch. Wilson, we said about people being on the move. Wilson was on the move, arriving just off the back of Greaves. It absolutely needed that touch from the centre half from Ipswich.
Here's Wilson's left-footed delivery towards the far post. Got over everybody. I think Castagna was supposed to be the target. He got it all wrong underneath, or whether the ball was overhit by Wilson in the first place. But we talked about Ipswich making a bit of a mess of the odd set piece they've had. Fulham are going to need to make their set pieces count as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised Kearney's not on them, but at the end of the day, you work on the training ground. Wilson's due to take that one. He's just overhit it. That's all. Got Castagna coming in late, trying to pressurise the defender off the back shoulder. And that ball was far too long.
It's the Ipswich fans you can hear at the moment. Their team still lead by a goal to nil. We've had 13 second half minutes here, approaching the hour. Fulham are on the attack once again. Castagna plays it into the feet of Lukic, who's faced by Kajusti. Drives forward and gets it wide to Wilson on that right side. Castagna overlaps, but Wilson moves in field. Here's Kearney, loves to shoot from there, but this time tries to jab it into the feet of Lukic. It's intercepted, and Ipswich have run it away from danger. Let's call it at Gresty Road. They're underway in the League 2 game between Crewe and Bromley. Here's Charlotte Richardson.
We're approaching the 15-minute mark here. Crewe 0, Bromley 0. Both teams with a shot on target each. Idris Odeteo, the Bromley left back, pushing up the pitch, tried his luck on the edge of the 18-yard area. The hosts making the most of the ball, that the possession they have has been threatening. They get a lot of bodies forward, but Bromley withstanding that. We've just seen Corey Whiteley actually with another strike. His effort whistling just wide of the right post. It's Crewe 0, Bromley 0.
Iwobi shoots from a tight angle, it goes just wide. That's Fulham's most threatening moment of this second half, trailing by a goal to 0. But it didn't actually really trouble Christian Walton at all.
No, he didn't. It's wide of the target, but it's a good steal on the halfway line from Jimenez, who feeds Wilson back to Jimenez, and then it's a lovely little interchange between Rowe and Wilson that finds Iwobi on the edge of the box. He wriggles himself half a yard, but the shot's the wrong choice. He was being really well managed actually by two Ipswich players. There was no gap really to get the shot away that would have found the target. I think it's a poor choice from Iwobi considering the position they found themselves in.
Smodic down the right for Ipswich, concedes a throw in to Fulham deep inside their own half of the field. Well, if it's decided that this isn't working for Fulham, Rodrigo Muniz is on the bench, another striker, youngster Josh King, Andreas Pereira dropped out of the starting 11 for Tom Cairney today. There are alternatives at the disposal of Marco Silva. In fact, most of them are warming up on the far side of the field at the moment.
We are getting to that stage, 60 minutes, 30 to go, and not a lot's changed, let's be brutally honest.
Smith Rowe's not had much impact at all, has he really, since coming on?
It does only, this is the point I'll make though, when teams get, as this game does go on and changes are made and Ipswich do get deep, it's saying the same about Brentford. If you concede one, you can't get out of that mode. It's really, really difficult to get out of that mode, and then the tails are up here, the crowd suddenly, the noise, the atmosphere, everything changes, and you'll find Fulham become quite dominant, but they just can't break down this very resilient defensive shape Ipswich have today.
Well, Fulham fans will tell you that they were trailing Brentford and the 90 minutes were up. 2 goals to Harry Wilson changed the game. So there's always time. No question of that. But at the moment, Ipswich are still, as you've said, Steve, relatively comfortable at 1-0.
But it is kind of the same patterns of play, and that's why I think the changes are going to have to come off the bench. It's lovely technical football. They've always got an option to the player in possession. You know, when they control the ball, it's a tight first touch. They get their heads up quick, but they just can't penetrate down the sides or in behind this very, very well-drilled back 5 that Ipswich have, and midfield 4 in front of that.
It's a free kick to Fulham. I think it's going to be a triple change. I think Rodrigo Muniz is coming on. I think maybe we're going to see Andreas Pereira as well, but before we do all of that, we're going to see a free kick to the Cottagers down the left near the corner of the Ipswich penalty area. Wilson and Smith Rowe in conversation about what to do with this. They've lost their massive, towering physical presence in Issa Diop, but Calvin Bassey, Raul Jimenez and Joachim Andersen are all potential targets. Here's the delivery from Wilson, clipped in and headed away by Delap for Ipswich. It comes out to Anderson and now Cairney, maybe just a double change. There might be a third one as well. As Iwobi pops up on the edge of the box, lifted across towards the far post and headed down and wide by Smith Rowe. He flung himself at it to try and get on the end of it, but he couldn't control the header, and wide it went, still 1-0, and Cairney's coming off for Fulham to be replaced by Pereira, the man who came in for. Iwobi comes off as well to be replaced by Muniz. So, double change for Fulham. Pereira looks like a straight swap for Cairney. Muniz comes on, he's a centre forward really, to replace Iwobi. So, well, they're not going to go 4-4-2, are they, Steve? That would be too much to ask. It looks like it's, well, having said that, at the other end of the field, here's Broadhead! Oh, what a save by Bernd Leno down to his left. Broadhead volleyed it towards goal after a long ball forward, wasn't dealt with by Fulham, and he just hammered it towards the net, and it's a brilliant save by Leno. Still 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, that's a 70-yard back to front ball from O'Shea, and the centre halves have to deal with it. They cushion it down to the edge of the box. And Broadhead comes onto it. It's a ferocious strike, controlled really well. thundering towards Leno's top corner, and that is a magnificent save from the Fulham goalkeeper right to his left, kept the scoreline at a point where Fulham just need the one to get back into it, but that's a fantastic save from Leno.
That's all he's had to do. Here's the corner towards the far post, flicked away by Jimenez, and out for an Ipswich throw-in. Deep inside the Fulham half of the field, it was hammered by Broadhead. And it's just a great stop, and he's been making daisy chains.
He has, but it just goes to show you can play all the football in the world, but that was launched from back to front. They won the knockdown. Almost got on that 2-goal cushion.
Here's the throw-in, which Kajus sends towards the edge of the 6-yard area, headed away by Castagna, and then Wilson might have to clip this forward and chase it himself. He does. Walton on the cover, back to Walton. Sometimes football's about doing very little for a very long time and then suddenly having to do everything, isn't it? As chasing it is Smodic, and Bassi, well, I thought he made a mess of it, Calvin Bassi, there for a second. Smodic trying to get on the end of it, but he's cleared his lines. And then Muniz tries to turn, and the referee's right advantage here. Muniz has gone down. Smith Rowe for Wilson, edge of the box, goes down, and the referee says no penalty. The challenge to Morsey, he's being implored to have a look, but no penalty, says the referee. This will get checked. Harry Wilson's fit to burst.
That is a pen. I mean, in real time, look, the replays might prove me wrong, but to me this is a cast iron penalty.
Wilson collects on the edge of the box, and Morsey just catches it.
Pen.
Yeah, they're going to overrule this.
Yeah. Look, and everyone go, oh, his legs are crossed over and he's tripped himself up, but he's tripped himself up because of the contact from Morsey.
Yeah.
This is a penalty all day long. Well, I don't know how he's missed it, if I'm honest.
They're going to look at it. I mean, Wilson is absolutely livid, but they are checking this penalty non-award by the referee. He's going to go and have a look, and I don't think this is going to take long. I mean, he does trip himself up, but he trips himself up, as you say, because of Morsey's challenge.
Yeah, if he doesn't put his foot,
clips his heel.
Sorry, Nick, if he doesn't put his foot on the back of his leg, the legs don't cross over. There's no need for Morsey to make that contact either. He's got enough defenders goal side to deal with that particular situation. The recovering defender, or midfielder in this case, shouldn't really make the contact. This is the lifeline I think Fulham have required, because I've said there will be a pendulum swing if they get back on level terms, and how important does that Leno save look now?
Priceless. He may have had a critical role in the way this game goes. He's having several looks at this, and you see the contact.
Don't know what you need to look at.
I find this very strange that they spend all this time.
Stamped on his calf. Well, it's flicked. Not stamped on it. Sorry, that's the
toe with the end of his toe. Penalty given. The referee overrules his original decision. Darren Bond points at the spot, and Fulham have the chance to equalise. Marco Silva's still raging. I don't quite know why he needs to do that.
He's fit to burst, isn't he?
They've all got to calm down. They've got what they wanted, and it's going to be a penalty, which I think Raul Jimenez is going to take. They're just going to check. Now, in the build-up to that move, there was the hand in the face for Rodrigo Muniz. He might be moaning about that.
We've completely forgotten about that.
Well, I'd pick your battles if I was. There's a yellow card for Morsey for the challenge, or maybe for the hand. I'm not even sure who put his hand in Muniz's face, but Morsey goes in the book. And Raul Jimenez has the chance to bring Fulham level halfway through the second half on a very rainy day down by the River Thames. This is a pivotal moment in this contest. Ipswich have led since the 38th minute, and Raul Jimenez has the opportunity to bring the Cottagers level. There is a long wait. The referee's finally happy. But at the Hammersmith end, Jimenez comes up, right-footed, and sends it down the middle. Walton almost dives over the ball. It looked rather clumsy, but the goalkeeper was unable to do anything about it. And Fulham are level with a quarter of the match to go. The celebrations continue. Marco Silva still looks as though he's chewing a wasp, but the fact is his team are on terms. It is Fulham 1, Ipswich 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's a curious one because it's a run-up that has about 3 or 4 counters, and then when he plays it, Walton just sort of falls forward, not sideways. And actually, if he goes sideways, he has a chance of saving it. It's only about 2 yards right of centre, as in Walton's right. But nevertheless, he finds the back of the net, and as expected, atmosphere's cranked up a couple of notches.
So it's one each. And Fulham have made their changes as well. But now here come Ipswich with Broadhead, who finds Delap inside the penalty area. Delap goes to ground. He's going to get a penalty to Ipswich. Delap caught 8 yards out. He just shifted the ball away from his man. Marco Silva is now laughing down there. It's 2 penalties in the space of a couple of minutes. VAR will check this one as well. But Liam Delap has gone down under a challenge. Here's the replay. Broadhead feeds it forward. It's Anderson and it's Castagna. And does he run into Castagna and throw himself to the ground, Steve Brown? Is this a penalty? It's a bit clumsy. Has he caught him?
I mean, there is contact. It's the slightest of brush, boot on boot. It's the reaction of Delap, unfortunately, has made the referee give this penalty. It's soft, isn't it?
Fulham players continuing to harangue the officials. They've been doing this a lot.
It's so soft. It's not going to get overturned.
It's mistimed, isn't it? Because he's kicked the foot. He's kicked Delap's foot, and then Delap's felt it and thrown himself to the ground. Now, these days, if you want consistency these days, that is a penalty. It's ever so soft.
It's so soft.
20 minutes to go.
Literally, Castagna flicks his foot out to intercept the ball as it just gets nudged away, and he brushes Delap's foot. I mean, it's no more than a brush.
Liam Delap is grinning broadly at Bernd Leno as he stands over the ball 12 yards out.
I didn't actually anticipate Ipswich coming back into this one, but it's...
Leno has had to deny Ipswich once already in this half. Here goes Delap and he scores! Ipswich were level for just a couple of minutes. They've taken the lead again, and it's Liam Delap who won the penalty, stepped up, gave Leno a massive smile and smashed it into the net. Fulham trail again, 26 minutes into the second half. It is Fulham 1, Ipswich 2.
Yeah, it's a very, very confident strike from a very, very confident player. Power, pace, accuracy, and even if the keeper goes the right way, I'm not sure he saves it.
And, well, I mean, Marco Silva hasn't really got anywhere left to go. He's been livid with everything for about 10 minutes. And now there's an Ipswich change coming up, and Sam Morsey is coming off. And Jack Taylor's coming on. So Morsey, the man who quote-unquote scored the first goal, has come off. And Calvin Phillips has also come on for Jens Kajus. That's a straight swap. The loanee from Manchester City. And Morsey. Okay. So Delap and
I think it's Smodics who's made way.
Yeah, Smodics has come on.
Yeah. No, Smodics has gone off.
Yeah. Coming and Taylor's come on. And the other change, Kajustov for Phillips. And we're back underway, and Ipswich lead 2-1, which leaves many people inside this ground absolutely stunned, because it has been all Fulham. It's been all Fulham all game, really.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate it. Once Fulham got level, I got to be brutally frank, I didn't anticipate Ipswich scoring again. I thought it was going to be back onto the edge of the 18-yard box, the atmosphere cranked up, Fulham tails up, and could they score a second? And that's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works to that. It's a very, very soft penalty, but it is what it is. It's been given, it's been converted. Fulham have to find a way back into this game.
Let's go to Crewe. How are Bromley getting on in the 3 o'clock kick-off in League 2? Charlotte Richardson.
It's Crewe 1, Bromley 0. Omar Bogle puts the hosts ahead, and Bromley won't be happy with this, as they had defender Callum Reynolds on the deck in the midfield area. The Bromley defender wanting treatment. Crewe under no pressure to play the ball out. They carried on, they cut inside to the box. The initial shot was saved really well by goalkeeper Grant Smith, but as all number 9s do, they make sure that they're in the right place at the right time to follow up on any rebounds, and that is exactly what Crewe have done here. We've played 29 minutes, it's Crewe 1, Bromley 0.
Now, Fulham have to stop worrying about everything that's gone on and plot their way back into this match, Steve. Do you think, given the sort of the intensity of the last few minutes, they can reset and refocus for the remaining 15 minutes plus added on time?
I think one of the things that we're probably likely to see is where Fulham start to risk. It'll allow Ipswich to counter, which will make them a little bit more stretched. And if we get quick little turnovers from one to the other, you're going to see massive gaps appear that just haven't been there up to this point, because we're hitting desperation stakes if you're Fulham. So as they risk, Ipswich will get the odd counter, and hopefully in transition Fulham have a little more space to play in. But it's going to have to be quick and sharp in terms of turnover into opportunity.
If you've just been out and you've popped back in, you won't know that Fulham levelled through Raul Jimenez's penalty, which initially wasn't given and then got given on a VAR review, and Ipswich then went straight down the other end, earned a penalty themselves to Liam Delap. The foul by Castagna is marginal, but these days those sort of challenges, it was given on the field by the ref and then not overturned. He then scored to make it 2-1, and Fulham continue to look a little bit rattled by what's been going on. Free kick now to Ipswich, 15 yards inside the Fulham half of the field, and again have to remember that Nathan Broadhead volley was well saved by Bernd Leno. This scoreline could be very different.
It could be, you're absolutely right. I'm just thinking there, Delap, he's drawn another free kick from Anderson for very limited service. He does cause a lot of trouble across back lines. Chases so many lost causes. He uses his body so well. He's got very good physicality.
And when he isn't, even when he's not there, the fact he could be there kind of unsettles defenders, I think. Here's the Ipswich free kick rather, headed away by Rodrigo Muniz, and there's a flag up. And Fulham want to take this
we can't see him, he's over there by the ball.
Yeah, the flag does go up.
Camouflaged actually.
He is. Well, the stand does look. Well, you know my comparisons to one of the Star Destroyers in Star Wars. Very, very, very well received, all my Star Wars.
It was very good.
And you know that is why it does look a bit scary. And the gentleman in black, the assistant referee on the far side, kind of does disappear into its rather marauding, terrifying presence. Anderson has it on the right hand side, clipped up in the air. Morsey can't control it. Pereira, who's just come on, can. Pereira gets barged over by Morsey. It's a free kick to Fulham inside their own half of the field. 14 minutes to go. It is. Remarkably, Fulham 1, Ipswich 2. That's been lifted into no man's land. They've not got their head screwed on again yet, Fulham. No. Again, that free kick from Pereira just went nowhere. Out for a throw.
And Castagna, just standing 5 yards to his right, puts his arms out and say, what on earth was that? But it's gone, you move on, you squeeze over, you box in, you try and win the ball back from this throw. But Ipswich have suddenly decided to up the tempo when Fulham are trying to play out from the back. They're putting the press on, they're trying to up the tempo, and then when the ball comes from back to front, their back line's all over Fulham, trying to win the knockdown back in, so they're territorially playing in Fulham's half, which again, didn't see that coming, if I'm brutally honest. But the second goal has allowed them the confidence to be able to do that.
Lukic barrelling over halfway, gets fouled by Johnson. Free kick to Fulham, 15 yards inside the Ipswich half. We've not seen the ball in the Ipswich half a great deal in the last few minutes. While they set this free kick up, we'll pop back to Crewe and Charlotte.
Crewe 2, Bromley 0. Omar Bogle doubles the host advantage. A disastrous few minutes for Bromley. A ball whipped in from the right edge of the 18-yard area, nodded home by the Crewe forward, unchallenged aerially. A poor moment for the visiting team, who have a mountain to climb here. Crewe 2, Bromley 0.
Free kick to Fulham down their left-hand side. Wilson and Smith Rowe, the two players over it. It'll be sent into the box. Muniz and Jimenez all in there. This is Jimenez, and here he goes just wide. A few in the ground thought it had gone in. He met the header well, couldn't direct it the right side of Christian Walton's right-hand upright.
Yeah, Walton scrambling there. It's really well met from Jimenez. Great power. It's 12 yards out. out, and he's generating an awful lot of power. It's skidded off the surface and got a little bit more power, but it's about a yard wide. Morton scrambling to his right, and another substitution for Fulham.
And it is the bulldozer, Adama Traore, who's coming on for Sasa Lukic. That leaves Andreas Pereira with an awful lot to do in the middle of that Fulham midfield, because Adama Traore is not going to be tidying much up, I have to say, but he travels with the ball so well, Steve. Very difficult to stop.
Very, very powerful player. It's just end product, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes he drives into fantastic areas and the end product doesn't match the run. But Ipswich now making another change as well, just to counter that, I think.
Broadhead coming off, and it is Jack Clark who's coming on, wearing number 47, Jack Clark, and the other change is Ben Johnson is being replaced, and coming on in his place is Wes Burns, the Welshman. So Burns will go and play right wing back, you'd have thought. Jack Clark's try and bolster things in the midfield alongside Phillips and Morsey. Just one thing I was going to say about Delap is his presence does cause bother.
Yeah.
And the penalty which he earned, it was very similar to the goal he scored against Aston Villa, when he just kind of shifted the ball like that, and defenders don't know what to do, because they know that if they do something, they're going to foul him, and it's going to be a penalty. And that was the moment that people started to take notice of Delap. Now people are saying that Thomas Tuchel should be paying attention to him, which is extraordinary, really. Here come Fulham again. This time it's Wilson, tries to get goal side of Wolfenden, helped away by the Ipswich Town centre half. And now Traore, first opportunity for him to run at this Ipswich defence. Jack Clark has stuck very close to him, though. You almost got to stop him from getting away from you, because if he does get going, he's like a steam train. Very, very difficult to slow down. 2-1 to Ipswich. 10 minutes to go. This is BBC Radio London. A reminder that tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. Aaron Paul will be launching his new breakfast show. There'll be plenty of football chat in that. I'm sure this game will come up. And then tomorrow night we're live on the radio with more live football from Loftus Road. Our programme starts at 6, a review of the weekend, and then QPR against Luton. Tuesday evening from 6 it's the London Women's Football Show, downloadable and able to listen again on BBC Sounds. And then on Wednesday, join us from the new White Hart Lane, Liverpool's clash with Tottenham in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. So loads of football action, loads of football chat on the way here on BBC Radio London in the week and the days to come. But we'll have to see if Fulham can get themselves out of this jam they've got themselves into. That is a free kick to Fulham. Delap penalised.
I have to say, not as confident. I sat here in that Brentford game and thought they were going to get back into it. I'm not seeing anything enough here from Fulham that would suggest that they can peg this one back.
I think it's oddly because we've already had a kind of exchange, haven't we, with the two penalties. As a long ball forward looks for Traore. Oh, it's a rather clumsy clearance by Davis. He goes to ground and doesn't get much distance on it. Bassi collects on the halfway line. Tries to get round his man. That goes out of play. Jack Taylor with the throw-in for Ipswich, and they don't look as though they believe they can get back into it at the moment.
It's a stuttering performance, if I'm honest with you. It's not really gone anywhere. I expected them, obviously conceding so quickly after getting level has really thrown a spanner in the works, but they've not recovered from that.
The timing of that second goal was appalling. Here come Ipswich again, and this is Davis, and he fires it over the top into the Putney end, into those Ipswich supporters. But this is the thing, isn't it? As you rightly said, once Fulham were level, you thought to yourself, right, hang on, here come Fulham. This is what they do. They get themselves back into the game, tails up, away you go. And the fact that penalty was conceded almost immediately broke that spell that Fulham were preparing to cast on the rest of the game.
And then they've not found a structure.
No, they've not been able to
way of
put
playing to break down Ipswich. We've seen multiple changes, which doesn't help. But we're hitting that desperation, the last 8 and throwing everything at it.
Traore down the right for Fulham. There is still plenty of firepower for Fulham on the pitch to get them back into it, and the next goal, if Fulham get it, might be crucial. Traore down the right, moves away from one man and sends a cross in towards the far post. It's flicked away on the stretch by Dara O'Shea. It's a vital interception, and it's another Fulham corner, their 7th of the game.
Yeah, not the first or the last time, we'll say. A good header from an Ipswich Town defender. They have defended particularly well from crosses.
Here's the corner from Pereira, opposite nothing. Corner again, it's grabbed by Walton under no pressure.
That's a consequence, of multiple changes. Someone should be blocking Walton. So on every set piece where you go far, there should be a man stopping him coming to make a clean take. They've lost that because they're disjointed, because they've made so many changes, because they're chasing the game.
Let's go back to Crewe and Charlotte Richardson.
It's Crewe 3, Bromley 1. Just when I thought it was game on for the Ravens, Crewe restore their 2-goal cushion. Bromley had been awarded a penalty for handball. Michael Cheek converting, but with the very next attacking move, Jack Lancaster produces a quality finish to extinguish the travelling supporters' celebrations. Some very lax, uncharacteristic defending from Bromley. We've played 40 minutes. It's Crewe 3, Bromley 1.
3 o'clock kick-off there, 2 o'clock kick-off here at Craven Cottage, and Fulham trail Ipswich by 2-1. A reminder that Fulham came into this game 7 unbeaten in the Premier League, and there's still time for them to retrieve the situation, but there is no fluency as yet. It's going to be collected on the halfway line by Calvin Bassey. He's going to exchange passes with Pereira.
You certainly don't want your centre half holding his arms out as if to say there's nothing going on in front of me, I haven't got to pass on to an already frustrated crowd.
No, they'll want a wall of noise in these last 5 minutes or so, but again, if Fulham can get one, then maybe it all changes, but this is going to be the psychological hillock for them, is to get that equalised.
I don't see how it's coming. Like in previous games, Southampton and Brentford, they've been so good in conjuring up opportunities, shots on target. The weird stat is Ipswich have had more shots on target than Fulham today, and yet Fulham have dominated possession.
Well, they've earned another corner.
Dominated it.
Fulham's 8th of the game. Wilson to take it, and it's been played short to Traoré, and Pereira rips in a cross, is deflected up in the air, and it's awkward, and it's hooked away in the end in a hurry by O'Shea. Ipswich try and ease the pressure. It's going to drop to Robinson as the last man back. He goes back to Leno, and he's going to give it back to Robinson, and Fulham will come forward again, trailing by 2-1 on BBC Radio London. Jimenez penalty to bring them level. They kicked off, Ipswich went down the other end and got a penalty of their own, which Liam Delap converted. Here is Traoré once again, another skipping run, moves in field, gets it back now from Jimenez, offloads to Wilson, who strikes it against Wolfenden. I don't think he knew much about it. That was probably Fulham's best attacking move for a little while, a little interchange of passes, and Wilson's shot is blocked.
Yeah, too few and far between though, aren't they, those little moves? Lovely little give and go from Traoré, then a little sideward pass into the path of Wilson. He struck it with great power. That's a super block. But they're too few and far between, those little moves, those little link-ups for Fulham.
Smith Rowe down the left. He's got Robinson outside him. A high cross that goes into the Hammersmith end. And well, that's more wasted energy from a Fulham perspective. And there's going to be another change, and Liam Delap is coming on. And Ali Al-Hamadi, I think, is the player who's going to come on in his place. And he could be the Ipswich hero once again. He's getting a lot of applause away to our left. He's been a menace and a nuisance, and he could have won the decisive penalty in the game.
In terms of limited service, Nick, and let's be honest with it, it has been extremely limited. He has done absolutely everything he can as a player to disrupt with the service he's been given. The penalty is soft, but give him credit for manoeuvring that ball very, very quickly from one side to the other and drawing the contact from Castagna and then converting it in with such confidence. You know, it wasn't going anywhere else, was it?
Well, it was all that business of grinning at Leno as well as he stood over the ball 12 yards out and playing mind games. And as I said, it went right in the top corner, or very nearly in the top corner. But, you know, a couple of inches to the right, it would have hit the post. But such is the level of confidence and assurance. Now Fulham are trying to play out from the back, and they've used Anderson on the edge of his own penalty area. And now Bassey moving forward. 2 minutes to go in the 90. And Fulham still trail, and Ipswich, unbelievably, are on the attack, but it's been won back by Jimenez, who's dropped a little deeper. Guides it out wide to Traoré, who's beaten to it by Davis, and here comes Jack Taylor running at the edge of the penalty area. It's going to open up for him. Oh, he's hit the post! Extraordinary. Clark just let fly from the edge of the box. Leno beaten, it hits the face of the post and bounces away to safety. Jack Clark could have ended the contest.
Absolutely, and this time Leno was beaten, but it's cannoned off the foot of the post and out, and Fulham on the attack.
Here they go down the right. Jimenez breaks into the penalty area at a tight angle. Waits, goes past his man and goes to the ground. It's a penalty to Fulham in the 89th minute. He just waited for the contact. Jimenez did it brilliantly to bring it under control, but he goes down under the challenge. I'm sure they'll check it, and there's another chance for Fulham to pull themselves level from the penalty spot.
Absolutely bonkers. Their last penalty come off the back of a save from Leno. This one comes off the back of a shot cannoned off the foot of the post. And I said to you, it's Ipswich, when Ipswich are attacking is when the space is left for Fulham to exploit. And it's hardly been there all game. But it's a wonderful run from Jimenez, and there is definite, I mean, you can argue he's dragged his legs across, but this is poor defending actually from Leif Davis. He hangs a leg out, which is disastrous when you're inside your penalty box. And he catches Jimenez, down he goes. There is no question this is a penalty.
It's going to be Jimenez again, who scored the first penalty. That was a bit clumsy as it went in, but he's earned the next penalty, and we're going to have 7 minutes of added on time at the end of this. It's 2-1 to Ipswich. We've played for exactly 90 minutes, and Jimenez has the chance to equalise for Fulham. Here he goes with the right foot. He waits and he scores! Strikes it into the top left-hand corner of Walton's goal, and for the second time in the game, Raul Jimenez brings Fulham level. There are 7 minutes of stoppage time to play, and it's Fulham 2, Ipswich 2.
Well, that's even better into that penalty. I mean, they're both exceptional, but if we're being really picky, yeah, it's not an easy one to open up your body, and go to the keeper's left when you're right-footed. And he had a little bit of a moment there, Jimenez, where he had his heart in his mouth, and then it hits the back of that net, and he runs off and gets his applause. But Ipswich straight out off the bat and on the front foot.
2 each on BBC Radio London. Fulham have come from behind twice. Can they find a winner? This goes out of play. Wes Burns has conceded a throw-in, and that positivity, that injection of hope and belief that we thought was going to arrive at any point in the last hour and a half has finally arrived in added on time. Back it goes to Walton, who clears over the halfway line. If Fulham can do what they did against Brentford and score twice after 90 minutes has elapsed, well, they will be the kings of the Houdiniac, won't they?
And it continues that unbeaten run. Even if they hold on to 2-2, they continue the unbeaten run. I'm sure Marco Silva will say it's no more than we deserve with the possession we had. But they've been behind twice today, and it's 2 penalties that look like it's got them out of jail for at least a point. But I think there's one more. There's time enough for one more decent opportunity for one or the other.
Traoré gets away from Davis down the right-hand side. Here's the cross into the penalty area, missed by everybody. About 4 Fulham players trying to get hold of it. Comes out of Robinson, taken away from him. Last is defending by Taylor, and then in flies Pereira to try and win it back. It goes out for an Ipswich throw.
Yeah, Robinson has to take that on the outside. I don't know why he was trying to cut back in, push it down into the space. He's electrically quick. And as he cuts inside, you offer the ball to your opponent, and that, okay, I think that's a good challenge, but I'm from a different era, so.
We're all increasingly from a different era, Steve, I won't worry about it. There's not a lot we can do about it. But here on the banks of the Thames on BBC Radio London, we play for 3 minutes of added on time at Craven Cottage, and it is 2-2, and Ipswich have a free kick on halfway that they launch forward. It goes over Burns' head, Bassey comes across, and it goes out for a throw into Fulham. Is there going to be time? Well, you said there's time for one more decent chance, but which end will it go? Who will it fall to? Al-Hamadi is going to try and chase this. Can he get round Bassi? Bassi goes to ground. Free kick to Fulham on the edge of their own penalty area.
Yeah. He must be tired, Bassi, because he's got the strength and the power to hold off Al-Hamadi, no problem at all. He went down a little bit easy there, but he got the free kick. Launches it forward and need to win the knockdown.
Muniz has helped it out to Jimenez on that left-hand side. Muniz in the box. Jimenez drives at the touchline. Has he kept this in play? It's gone out for a corner. Fulham corner in the 4th minute of added on time. This is what they do. This is how they win games of football. They leave it very, very, very late. Pereira's delivery from that left-hand side. 95th minute of the game. Loads of white shirts forward.
Just looking at Wilson on the edge, a little knockdown to him.
It's a dreadful corner by Pereira at the near post. It's cleared away by Ipswich. Only as far as Robinson on the halfway line. Back to Smith Rowe. Gets it wide to that left-hand side, and Pereira once again pushes it forward. Smith Rowe's continued his run towards the Ipswich corner flag. Keeps it alive. Sends it back for Robinson. And now Anderson. Ipswich have pulled everybody back into their final third of the field. Wilson and Robinson and Pereira again. They're switching it one way then the other. Here's the whipped in ball, headed away by O'Shea, drops to Wilson, who sends it back into the mix. There's a lot of wrestling going on. It's cleared by Morsey, and the referee I think is going to penalise Muniz, but there was a lot going on inside that penalty area. And it's going to be a free kick which Christian Walton is going to take, and we have got 2 minutes of the 7 that they said they'd add on to go. It may be 2.5 because of the goal went in on 90 minutes more or less. It is 2 each. Ipswich in front twice, Fulham equalising twice. Walton is shall we say dwelling on this?
Despite leading twice, they are playing this out for the point. They're so scared to concede a third that they'd rather run the clock down and take the point at this stage, which is fair enough.
Throwing on the far side. Robinson takes it into Bassi inside his own half. Urged to send this forward. He goes high looking for Muniz, who helps it on, and it's cleared away by Davids though. Couldn't find the white shirt. Taylor back helping out for Ipswich. Oh, it's not a great back pass, but it finds Walton. Wilson was inches from intercepting the back pass, and I mean inches. Christian Walton can't believe the ball made its way through to him, and he got the clearance in.
And he was in no man's land.
Oh.
If he gets a touch on that, it's 3-2.
Or another penalty.
Yeah.
96 minutes on the clock. Fulham go long again. Muniz tries to get goal side of his. Shot to Smith Rowe. He can't get hold of him. It's a big shot for handball. The referee allows the game to continue. It will get checked. 2-2 in the dying moments at Craven Cottage.
That's handball.
Well, here is Robinson going down that left-hand side. Surely not a 4th penalty in this game. Bassi wide to Robinson. The ball sent in and it's cleared away by O'Shea on the stretch. The referee is going to pause the game whilst they watch these replays at Stotley Park. Is it not? It might have come off the ribs of Wolfenden.
It's excellent refereeing, credit where credit's due.
Game continues. Here's the cross. Walton claims. 6 yards down, drops on the ball.
That's standard. That's fine. You know, you can boot all you like, but that's standard when you're seeing down the clock. But I want to give the referee a shout, because for all the world in real time that looked like handball, and it wasn't. It came off the inside or underneath the arm on the side of the body. Brilliant refereeing.
It's hit him in the rib cage, and it's not a penalty. And it's still 2-2. We're now playing the 8th minute of added on time. Cracked forward, free kick Fulham, halfway inside their own half of the field. We're 20 seconds into the 9th minute.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I couldn't drag the rib cage out of the deep brain there, Nick. It's exactly where it hit. The side under the armpit.
That's right. Might be a bruise in the morning. Doesn't matter. Not if Not if Ipswich hang on, but they might be struggling to do so now. It's a free kick which Leno's going to take, and everybody's forward in a white shirt. Into the box it goes. Oh, it's hit Davis. Here's Muniz who shoots, and Walton grabs it. Oh, Rodrigo Muniz with a chance to win it in the 8th minute of stoppage time. But Walton saves, clears downfield, and it's all over. And the points are shared on a chaotic afternoon at Craven Cottage, where Ipswich led twice and Fulham pegged them back twice through penalties by Raul Jimenez. But there is no big grandstand fairy tale finish for Fulham on this occasion. The Brentford trick cannot be repeated in stoppage time at the end of the 90 minutes, and despite all the dominance and all the possession, and despite pushing for a victory late on, it's just possible that on balance Fulham will be quite relieved they've emerged with a point, because for long periods in this second half it looked as though getting back into the game was beyond them. They trailed in the first half through Sammy Smodich's drive after Fulham made a real Horlicks of a Nathan Broadhead cross on the left. They equalised halfway through the second period when Harry Wilson was fouled and Raul Jimenez stepped up and drove the penalty home. Ipswich retook the lead 2 minutes later after an extraordinary moment when Liam Delap was caught by Timothy Castagna inside the box. He converted the penalty for 2-1, and then as we ticked up to 90 minutes, Jimenez caught by Leif Davis in the Ipswich box, another penalty. Jimenez converted again to level matters at 2-2. Fulham's long unbeaten run continues. It's now 8 unbeaten. They had the chance to go 8 if they'd have won the game, but they'll have to settle for staying in 9th after it finished at Craven Cottage. Fulham 2, Ipswich 2.
BBC Radio London,
the home of London football.
Well, excellent commentary of an excellent afternoon's entertainment here. There's a lot to get into after 4 o'clock talking about this one. A point apiece. Fulham could have gone 8th. They didn't. Ipswich could have been out the bottom 3. They're not. 2-2. 3 penalties. Lots of talking points. Let's go to Gresty Road. It's half-time. Crewe against Bromley. Charlotte Richardson.
Crewe 3, Bromley 1. After a relatively slow start to the match, it sprung to life with a downpour of goals, 4 in the space of 10 minutes. Omar Bogle broke the deadlock, tucking away a rebounded strike that dropped neatly for him in the 6-yard area. Bromley had Callum Reynolds down in need of treatment. The hosts exploited that. Andy Woodman, the Bromley manager, receiving a yellow card for his protestations. Bogle doubled Crewe's advantage before Michael Cheek converted a Bromley penalty after a handball in the box. Yet, within minutes, Jack Lancaster restored Crewe's 2-goal cushion, meaning that there is lots for Bromley to correct and do better in the second half. Half-time here, Crewe 3, Bromley 1.
Charlotte, thank you very much indeed. Second half, we'll keep you up to date with that on BBC Radio London as well. Don't forget, tomorrow evening, live football for you from Loftus Road, QPR against Luton Town. Tuesday night, we've got a night off. That's our only night off, though, for a week and a half, because Wednesday we've got League Cup action, and we're into the FA Cup, and our FA Cup of 5 days worth of coverage begins here at Craven Cottage. We're back on Thursday night. Fulham hosting Watford on that particular occasion. Well, if it's as entertaining as this one, then you're into for a bit of a thriller. Watford themselves can certainly know how to score and also concede 3 penalties. Could have been a red card in the first half. Lots of talking points. You don't know what you're doing, was some of the cries from some of the Fulham fans directed at the referee as he marched off the side of the pitch. He did get some calls right. He did have to be corrected on some calls. Others, maybe he got wrong. It's all in the day's work, though, for a referee who's never right, regardless of what happens. We'll get into this and analyse this. Also look back at the rest of the weekend after the 4 o'clock news on BBC Radio London. It's been a mixed weekend, I think it's fair to say, across the board. But this afternoon has certainly been a lot of entertainment for us to enjoy. Fulham 2, Ipswich Town 2, with the rain hammering down on the banks of the Thames. We'll look back at yesterday and this afternoon next on BBC Radio London after the latest news.
On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio London,
and on your radio.
The sound of London is BBC Radio London.
BBC News at 4 o'clock. This is Claire Runacres. The tech billionaire Elon Musk has called for Nigel Farage to be replaced as leader of Reform UK. The two men had recently struck up a friendship, and there have been reports that Mr Musk was considering donating large sums to the party. Our political correspondent Billy Kember has more details.
In a post on his social media site X, the world's richest man has written that Nigel Farage doesn't have what it takes to lead Reform UK, and a replacement is needed. Mr Musk doesn't explain why he thinks that, but in his response, Mr Farage acknowledged that the pair disagreed over Mr Musk's support for the far-right activist known as Tommy Robinson. The Reform leader added that Robinson, who's in prison for contempt of court, wasn't right for reform, and he wouldn't sell out his principles. Mr Farage acknowledged that Mr Musk's criticism of him was a surprise. He described the billionaire as a remarkable individual, but said on this issue he disagreed with him.
Earlier, Nigel Farage defended Elon Musk after his attacks on Labour about grooming gangs. The owner of X called the Home Office Minister Jess Phillips a rape apologist for rejecting a request from a national inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham. The Health Secretary Wes Streeting called that a disgraceful smear. There's been travel disruption across the UK because of heavy snow. Several key roads in northern England have been closed, as have a number of rail lines. Manchester and Liverpool John Lennon airports have reopened their runways after staff cleared them of snow. Leeds Bradford Airport has also reopened its runway, but our correspondent in Leeds, Nikki Schiller, says it's not back to normal yet.
There is such a build-up of people, particularly in the departure lounge, that they're going to have to manage which flights take off when and how they get them through security. So disruption continues. There's also still that knock-on disruption at Manchester Airport and also at Liverpool John Lennon Airport.
As efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza continue, the territory's Hamas-run health ministry says Israeli airstrikes have killed more than 200 people since Thursday. At least 10 Palestinians are reported to have been killed overnight. Israel says it's targeting Hamas fighters and infrastructure. The Russian Defense Ministry says the Ukrainian army has launched an offensive in Russia's Kursk region, an area Kiev partially occupied exactly 5 months ago. In recent weeks, Moscow has been trying to push the Ukrainians out of Kursk. Our correspondent Will Vernon says the operation is still in its early stages.
The Russian Defense Ministry in a statement earlier said that Ukraine launched this offensive in the Kursk region at around 8 o'clock this morning local time, and that fighting was ongoing. And you mentioned the head of the Ukrainian presidential administration, Andriy Yermak. He didn't confirm the operation in a post on social media, but he did hint at it, saying there was good news from Kursk region and that the Russians were getting what they deserved.
And the first major prizes of award season for film and television productions will go ahead tonight in Los Angeles. Possible winners at the Golden Globes include Wicked, Emilia Perez and Conclave. BBC News, it's 4 minutes.